Warrior Lore. Chapter 937. On the fifth divine thunder platform, Chang Xingnan was still looking at the purple-robed young man. She thought of the past and felt an indescribable sadness in her heart. She didn't know if everything she had chosen was worth it. Was it fate, or was she not determined enough? Or was it her identity as a royal family that pushed her to where she was today? Was everything she had done right? At this moment, no one could answer her heart. Chang Xingnan suddenly remembered what her sister Chang Yin said to her on the eve of the engagement. But she knew that the past was getting further and further away. Humph! Below the lightning-attracting platform, Ouyang Shuang looked up and let out a soft snort. Her beautiful face quietly looked much better. Qi. Du Xiaofu landed on the third divine thunder platform. His purple robe fluttered slightly. On the third divine thunder platform, there was a young man with a lifelike, sword-shaped pattern embroidered on his shoulder. This young man exuded a cold aura. His skin was white and his black eyes were as cold as ice. It was as if he could see through reincarnation. Intelligent Sword Sect. Du Xiaofu looked at the sword-shaped pattern on the young man's shoulder. It wasn't hard to guess that this young man came from the Intelligent Sword Sect. The side of his face was as sharp as a knife, giving people a feeling of sharpness. It was like an unsheathed sword. Very strong. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he observed the faintly discernible aura of the young man. It was unfathomable and extremely dangerous. This invisible feeling made Du Xiaofu feel that the young man in front of him was much scarier than Chang Xingnan and Zhang Ruolan. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt that he was about to face a real battle. I don't care if you are Xiaofeng or Du Xiaofu. Are you the disciple of the revered weapon master? Wu Ming spoke. His voice was as cold and indifferent as his breath, like a sharp blade. His figure under the long robe was slender, with 3 sheathed long swords of gold, white, and yellow on his back, spreading out like a fan. Whether I am Xiaofeng or Du Xiaofu, I am still the disciple of my master, the venerable equipment master. Du Xiaofu raised his head. His eyes were resolute, and there was a golden light fluctuation. Du Xiaofu had learned from the ninefold spirit that Wu Ming from the Intelligent Sword Sect was looking for him. He probably didn't come with good intentions. As for John Doe's background, Du Xiaofu also knew something from Dongli Diao and Lin Weiqi. This person was the number 1 among the younger generation of the Huijian sect. He was obsessed with swordsmanship and was an absolute sword maniac. His cultivation was unfathomable. In terms of sword Dao, Wu Ming had long surpassed his peers. Even many elders of the Huijian sect were ashamed of their inferiority. That's good. I didn't find the wrong person. Wu Ming raised his head slightly and looked at Du Xiaofu. He said softly, "Your master, the venerable equipment master, owed a debt. It's been 1,400 years. It's only right for the disciple to repay his master's debt." As his voice fell, Wu Ming waved his hand. Like a sharp blade being unsheathed, a dazzling talisman suddenly burst out from his hand. Then, a dazzling illusory energy sword appeared in his hand. It was as if it was made by heaven, with runes flashing. Buzz. The energy sword in his hand was like a real thing. It buzzed like the wind and thunder. The sound of the sword pierced through gold and jade, causing pain in people's eardrums. Condensing qi into a sword. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes. It wasn't too difficult to condense a sword with qi. People with low cultivation could do it. However, it was definitely difficult to see someone who could condense a sword with qi to Wu Ming's level. As the energy long sword trembled, the spatial ripples around it shook slightly. It's only right for the disciple to repay his master's debt. No matter what debt my master left behind, I'll take it. Du Xiaofu didn't ask further. Wu Ming, the number 1 of the younger generation in the Huijian sect, would definitely not speak carelessly. No matter what debt his master left behind, he would take it. You're quite responsible. Wu Ming looked at Du Xiaofu. His indifferent temperament was like the energy sword in his hand. He said, I started learning the sword when I was 3. It's been 22 years since then. From the first day I started learning the sword, my master told me that if I ever met the disciples and descendants of the venerable equipment master, Xiahou Fenglei, I had to defeat them one by one. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to learn the sword. At this moment, Wu Ming was still calm. His way of the sword had already reached the point where it belonged to his heart. He had been waiting for this day. He had waited for 22 years. As for the reason behind his master's departure, he never asked. There was no need to. Du Xiaofu smiled helplessly. He didn't know who his master had offended in the Huijian sect. He had left behind a debt for no reason. But it was fine. He needed to fight now anyway. Way of the sword. The profound energy on Du Xiaofu's body trembled slightly as he gazed at the energy sword image condensed in nameless hand. An invisible aura was revealed, and an oppressive force spread out in the surroundings. A sword condensed from profound energy appeared in his hand. Boom! The energy sword in front of Du Xiaofu was exactly the same as the heavenly palace of purple gold. Suddenly, an aura that was definitely not weaker than Wu Ming's swept through the air. Faintly, the space around them froze. The two auras clashed with each other for no reason. The two of them hadn't made a move yet, but the atmosphere suddenly became tense. They hadn't made a move yet, but their auras were already clashing. The confrontation only lasted for a moment before the two auras were annihilated in the air at the same time. You don't have to choose the way of the sword. You're no match for me in the way of the sword. Wu Ming looked at Du Xiaofu and said softly. He had absolute confidence in the way of the sword. Is that so? Du Xiaofu smiled slightly. However, at the same time, the aura on his body suddenly became domineering and fierce. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, bringing with it a sharp and domineering aura. The Xin Qi on his body swept out like a storm. Swish! In the next moment, the energy sword in Du Xiaofu's hand shook, and a golden sword image instantly shot out. Every sword radiance carried a terrifying aura as it drew in the surrounding space. Faintly, electric arcs began to gather in the air. Flower-splitting willow. This is the flower-splitting willow from the Bright Saint Sword Manual. On the sixth peak of the Divine Thunder Mountain Range, Elder Husankuan also became a little nervous at this moment. He said with anticipation, in the way of the sword, those guys from the Huijian sect do have some skill in using the sword. I heard that Wu Ming is a genius in the way of the sword. Xiaofu is playing to his strengths. Nonsense. Those guys from the Huijian sect have some skill in using the sword. Do you think our ancient sky sect's Bright Saint Sword Manual is weak? If Xiaofu defeats Wu Ming in the way of the sword, let's see if those old guys from the Huijian sect will still dare to draw their swords when they see me in the future. Elder Gu Qingyang rushed, looking forward to his precious disciple being able to stand up for him. Beside him, Elder Qin Mingze, Elder Husankuan, and the others rolled their eyes at Elder Gu Qingyang. They naturally knew that an old sword maniac from the Huijian sect had defeated Elder Gu Qingyang 9 times in a row in the way of the sword. Each time, Elder Gu Qingyang's face was covered in dirt. This was regarded as Elder Gu Qingyang's biggest embarrassment in history. However, there were not many people in the ancient sky sect who knew about this matter. Moreover, those who knew did not dare to spread it. If they provoked Elder Gu Qingyang, it would not be a joke. On the Divine Thunder platform, as Du Xiaofu drew his sword, Wu Ming's eyes moved. It was as if every slight movement and expression of Du Xiaofu, as well as every trace of profound energy fluctuation, was being spied on. Buzz. Wu Ming drew his sword. The energy phantom sword stabbed out. It was a simple sword, but it was swift and fierce. It was unparalleled in its ferocity. It directly broke Du Xiaofu's flower-splitting willow. Du Xiaofu was surprised. With a simple sword, he already knew how terrifying Wu Ming was. Immediately, the energy phantom sword in his hand changed. Du Xiaofu's sword tip pointed at the void 3 times in a row, erupting with gorgeous runes. This was the Yang Pass 3 stacks from the Bright Saint Sword Manual. It blocked Wu Ming's path at the top, middle, and bottom. Wu Ming was still indifferent. The phantom sword in his hand changed continuously. He drew his sword again and pointed it 3 times, once again breaking Du Xiaofu's Yang Pass 3 stacks. Swish, swish. Immediately, the two sword rays intertwined. Wind and thunder roared. The sword rays seemed to be very simple sword moves, but they contained the great Tao. They were continuous, and the sword rays came one after another. The two exchanged blows. There was not much noise, only the sound of wind and thunder reverberating in the void. Streaks of sword light streaked across the air in mysterious arcs, leaving behind traces of vacuum in the air. Whoosh! The sword rays shone brightly, and the mysterious runes on the talisman shone brightly. They almost drowned the void, and the clanging sounds were endless. The more Du Xiaofu fought, the more shocked he became. In terms of the sword principle, Wu Ming was too strong. He was unbelievably strong. The sword rays that swept over were almost impossible to break. From the beginning to the end, Wu Ming had a faint and indifferent temperament, as if he did not have any human emotions. In terms of the sword principle, no one in the same generation can be senior brother Wu Ming's opponent. Below the lightning platform, the young talents of the Huijian sect had absolute confidence at this moment. Since he was young, Wu Ming only had the sword in his life. The sword was everything. In the Huijian sect, Wu Ming had never been defeated. In terms of the sword principle, many elders and experts of the Huijian sect admitted defeat. In the entire Central Plains, there were many famous swordsmen. Before the age of 18, Wu Ming had visited them one by one. There was only one result. He had never been defeated. At this moment, all eyes fell on the sword shadows of the two people on the Divine Thunder platform. Chapter 938. The two sword shadows kept crossing each other. The sword shadows never really touched each other. Both of them were in the martial royal realm, but their figures were moving very slowly. Only the sword shadows in their hands were moving very quickly. The sword shadows kept changing. Both of them couldn't leave the basic changes of the sword edge, including sealing, tripping, poking, entangling, and chopping. Their sword moves were continuous and endless. However, in the eyes of some people, such a battle was neither exciting nor intense compared to Du Xiaofu and Cheng Shengnan, Zhu Shui, Xilongyang, and Ling Jun, and the others. It shouldn't be a battle between two martial royal realm cultivators at all. John Doe is so powerful. I didn't expect Du Xiaofu to have such attainments in the sword principle. However, many people watched the battle between the two that was neither intense nor exciting. Cold sweat broke out on their backs. His sword moves are already moving according to his heart. John Doe is so powerful. On the second forging Divine Thunder platform, Juling's eyes were also fluctuating. In the sword principle, John Doe is very strong. Sima Muhan's eyes narrowed. Puffed. Suddenly, people around spat out blood. They spat out blood unknowingly. Don't look at their sword techniques. They are competing with Swordwell now. It will hurt people's minds and souls. Immediately, someone shouted, reminding those with lower cultivation. Their sword principle is too terrifying. Many people seem to have been enlightened by this loud shout. They immediately regained their senses and broke out in cold sweat. Only then did they realize how terrifying the power contained in this battle that was neither exciting nor intense was. John Doe's sword principle is so powerful. On the sixth peak of the Divine Thunder Mountain Range, Elder Gu Qingyang also became serious as he watched the scene in the space-time talisman array. Elder Gu Qingyang could see that John Doe from the Huijian sect was too strong. Even if his precious disciple was using the sword moves from the Bright Saint Sword Manual, he was still suppressed. Holy Sword Roar! The Divine Thunder platform, which was not very exciting or intense, finally started to become intense. Du Xiaofu, who had been suppressed all this while, instantly congregated a series of complex and mysterious sword moves on the illusory sword shadow in his hand, and finally turned into the simplest slash. It was a simple sword shadow, but it contained the power to move mountains and overturn seas. It seemed to be enough to tear apart space, and instantly spread to the front of John Doe with lightning speed. When this sword light appeared, it emitted endless golden light. Layer after layer of light bloomed, and dazzling green and gold talisman patterns blossomed. It was like a flood dragon soaring into the sky, like a great pung soaring into the sky. You have worries in your heart. Your sword moves are invisibly tied to a rope. Therefore, in terms of sword Dao, you are no match for me. Wu Ming spoke. He still had that faint and cold aura. The illusory sword in his hand pierced forward. Swish. It was still a simple sword move, but it seemed to contain endless changes. It directly collided with Du Xiaofu's sword move. Chi la la. At this moment, when the two sword lights collided, a large number of spatial ripples and cracks broke out one after another. The broken talisman patterns flickered, which was even more shocking. The cultivation of these two people in Sword Dao is enough to be the top two among their peers. Everyone was dumbfounded, and their eyes were full of shock. Ding ding, Du Xiaofu's figure staggered backward. He raised his eyes slightly, and his golden eyes rippled. The energy sword in his hand disappeared. John Doe stood in the void, and the surrounding electric arcs flickered behind him, as if his whole body was shrouded in purple light. The illusory sword held diagonally, and John Doe stood proudly like a long rainbow. However, his faint and cold temperament was not affected at all. His whole body was as cold as an unsheathed sharp blade. The Sword Dao is to have no worries, to have no shackles in the heart. Only when the heart is free of worries and the heart is clear can one step into the depths of Sword Dao. Otherwise, it is not enough to talk about the sword. John Doe looked at Du Xiaofu and said, "Your sword moves have worries, and your heart has worries. Your sword moves have a form. In terms of Sword Dao, you are no match for me. Use your real strength." The Sword Dao is to have no worries, to have no shackles in the heart. Du Xiaofu stood where he was in a daze. When he heard John Doe's words, he seemed to have suddenly touched something. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's mind trembled, and his eyes seemed to be dull. He murmured softly, "My heart has worries. I can only win and not lose. This is my worry. My sword moves have a form. What I have comprehended is the Bright Saint Sword Manual. I can't leave the Bright Saint Sword Manual. Use your real strength. If you don't make a move, I will have to." John Doe looked at Du Xiaofu and said. His voice was still indifferent, and his temperament was cold. However, as John Doe's voice fell, Du Xiaofu's eyes were still dull, and he turned a deaf ear to John Doe's words. John Doe's eyes moved, and the energy long sword in his hand began to fluctuate. The sword qi seemed to be endowed with life and wandered around his body, making his clothes flutter. Swoosh! John Doe took the initiative to attack. When he stabbed out with his sword, it instantly gave people an illusion that the sword was a bolt of lightning. It was extremely fast and could penetrate space. In terms of Sword Dao, none of us can compare to John Doe. In the surrounding void, many geniuses were moved. They were all the real outstanding talents in the entire Zhongzhou. Naturally, they could see the changes in John Doe's sword. He had reached the realm of doing whatever he wanted. Doing whatever he wanted was also the top realm of Sword Dao. Some people could not reach such a realm even if they spent their whole lives comprehending Sword Dao. Just as everyone was worried about Du Xiaofu, the terrifying sword arrived in front of him. Du Xiaofu moved. His figure was unpredictable, drifting like a god, and he narrowly avoided the sword. That was a subconscious dodge. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was still in a daze. John Doe's eyes moved, and the sword shadow circled around. His figure was as light as a floating cloud, and he once again stabbed at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu also responded at this moment. He used his finger as a sword, and a sword light swept out. This sword move was extremely simple, and there seemed to be a trace of flower-splitting willow in the Bright Saint swordsmanship, but the more he looked at it, the more it did not look like that. However, it was this simple sword move that made John Doe, who had just attacked, have a fluctuation in his eyes for the first time. Before the sword light in his hand collided, John Doe had already changed his sword move. At this moment, Du Xiaofu used his finger as a sword, and his sword move began to change again. John Doe's eyes moved more and more, and the sword shadow in his hand kept striking out. Every sword move was swift and simple. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had entered an extremely mysterious state. He was using the wave-like carefree steps and using his finger as a sword. At this moment, it was as if he had become one with his sword. Xiaofu seems to be a little strange. On the sixth peak of the Divine Thunder Mountain Range, Elder Hu Sankuan and the others looked at the scene in the space-time talisman array in front of them. They could all feel that Du Xiaofu was a little abnormal at this moment. Heart Sword. That's already the Heart Sword. Xiaofu has entered the Heart Sword state. At this moment, Elder Gu Qingyang's eyes were fixed on the space-time talisman array, and his body trembled as if an electric current had surged through it. Gu Qingyang was sure that that state was the heart sword state. Even he had never been lucky enough to enter that state. Heart sword state. I didn't expect Du Xiaofu to enter the heart sword state. In the intellect sword sect, the mountain peaks were like 10,000 swords. On one of the peaks, a white-haired elder's eyes were shining with the brilliance of a sword shadow. Master, what is the heart sword? Beside the white-haired elder, an 11 or 12-year-old sword boy asked curiously. For the heart sword practitioner, the heart is the sword, and the sword is the heart. When one becomes one with the sword, it goes beyond sword moves. It is entering one's own sword Tao. The white-haired elder's eyes were clear as he looked forward and said, in my life, I have only entered the heart sword state once. That was how I was able to suppress Gu Qingyang 9 times. Whoosh whoosh, on the divine thunder platform, the sword gleams were still clashing. However, at this moment, John Doe's hands were covered in cold sweat. He suddenly realized that Du Xiaofu had become strange. His sword moves had also become strange. John Doe could feel that Du Xiaofu's sword momentum was becoming more and more domineering. It was like a ferocious beast, like a divine bird, domineering and fierce, and could not be provoked. It turned out that Du Xiaofu's sword move was tied to an invisible line. He had worries in his heart, so he was not afraid. But now, he could no longer feel that line on Du Xiaofu's sword. He could only feel the domineering sharpness of the sword move. Du Xiaofu's figure was like a god, changing unpredictably. Du Xiaofu's sword was formless and formless. One could vaguely see the shadow of the bright saint's sword manual, but the more one looked, the more it did not look like it. No one knew that at this moment, Du Xiaofu had entered the state of comprehending the mysterious move. Just like when he had comprehended the mysterious move, he had fused the mysterious move into the bright saint's sword manual and discovered that it was of the same origin. John Doe's words made Du Xiaofu feel as if he was enlightened. If there was concern in the heart, there would be fetters. If the sword move had a form, there would be flaws. So if there was concern in the heart, how could one win when the sword move had a form? Only when there was no concern in the heart could one go deep into the sword Tao. Only when everything followed one's heart could one completely release oneself. Du Xiaofu's heart hid a domineering aura. Ever since he walked out of the stone city, he had always been domineering. During this period of time, Du Xiaofu had concealed himself and restrained his heart. Although he had obtained an opportunity and made a lot of breakthroughs in his cultivation level, in terms of comprehension, there was not much progress. Concealing his identity was equivalent to restraining his heart. If his heart was restrained, how could there be much progress? And now, Du Xiaofu had returned to his heart. The mysterious move was fused, and his every move contained great mysteries. Du Xiaofu's sword momentum was becoming more and more domineering and fierce, like a ferocious beast, like a divine bird, not to be provoked. He suppressed with all his strength and counterattacked John Doe. Chapter 939. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Nameless expression finally became serious. The energy sword in his hand turned into 3 swords. The 3 swords lined up neatly. Wind and thunder roared like 3 rainbows. 1 sword to kill, 2 swords to split the earth, 3 swords to break the sky, 3 swords to kill a god. Wu Ming shouted softly. At this moment, the cold aura on his body became even sharper. 3 energy sword phantoms attacked at the same time. The surrounding space trembled with a loud bang. Then, they swept towards Du Xiaofu. Wherever the 3 energy swords passed, they were accompanied by lightning and thunder. Mysterious and bright runes appeared like 3 bolts of lightning. The 3 swords were terrifying. They seemed to be able to flip the earth and move mountains and seas. These 3 swords were like 10,000 swords. With an incomparably terrifying sword aura, they instantly spread in front of Du Xiaofu. The terrifying sword aura crushed the space and enveloped all of it. At this moment, Du Xiaofu could no longer dodge with his godlike movement technique. This is the 3 divine swords that Senior Brother Nameless himself comprehended. 3 swords at the same time. Senior Brother Nameless is using his strongest sword technique. Below the lightning platform, Many of the intelligent sword sect disciples were shocked. To be able to make senior brother Nameless use the last move of the three divine swords, only some of the most senior elders in the intelligent sword sect could do it. They didn't expect that Du Xiaofu would actually make senior brother Nameless use the last move of the three divine swords. I understand now. So this is what it means to have no worries. At this moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to have suddenly awakened from that extremely mysterious state. Facing the three terrifying swords that spread towards him, his eyes suddenly shone with a golden light. Boom! An incomparably domineering aura suddenly spread out from his tall body. It was like a peerless, ferocious beast that spread its wings and swept across the sky. Qi. Du Xiaofu once again formed the illusory purple-gold energy sword in his hand. Facing the three energy swords, he slashed 3 times. These 3 swords had the power to split a mountain. They were simple, domineering, and sharp. There were no fancy moves. They were just simple slashes. When the 3 swords slashed out, the surrounding space instantly trembled violently. A domineering aura that made people tremble with fear spread out. A powerful energy pressure spread out, causing the entire space to violently tremble. However, under countless stunned gazes, the space where Du Xiaofu's 3 swords slashed out seemed to directly cause the space itself and Taoist. But, under countless shocked gazes, the space where Du Xiaofu's 3 slashes passed through seemed to directly collapse the space. Along with the appearance of those dazzling runes, an invisible tyrannical aura shook the space, causing space to ripple endlessly. The sword radiance collided with each other like thunder and lightning, and suddenly it sounded like thunder. At this moment, the 3 swords collided, and it was no longer calm. The terrifying energy turned into Qi rune ripples, and like a tsunami, it suddenly swept through the void above the 3rd divine lightning platform. Monstrous energy instantly erupted, and an extremely terrifying energy storm instantly swept out in all directions. It was like an arc of light that instantly filled the entire space. It was as if countless sword glows were shattering, causing everyone below to reveal a horrified expression. Wu Ming's 3 swords were then shattered. Du Xiaofu's 3 swords swept through the air and destroyed the former's 3 swords. Then, he was very close to Wu Ming. These 3 swords were extremely domineering. At this moment, the 2 sword principals had reached the point where the outcome would be decided. Wu Ming's eyes trembled. At this moment, his gaze seemed to be sluggish. In the next moment, when Wu Ming felt that he was still in danger, he was already 1 step too late. Although the 3 sword shadows light allowed him to quickly avoid his chest, it pierced into his shoulder. At this moment, he was unwilling to accept all this, but he had to accept it. The 3 energy swords did not have a lot of energy. They were more sword will. Energy hurt the body, but sword will hurt the heart of the sword. The domineering sword will pierced into Wu Ming's shoulder. He could even feel the sword will sweeping out. The domineering sword force wanted to destroy his heart of the sword. Wu Ming's body staggered back, blood spilling out of his mouth. Under the sword will, Wu Ming felt a stabbing pain in his heart. That kind of pain was very different. It was completely different from the physical pain. It was as if he saw his most beloved thing being hurt in front of his eyes. This kind of pain seemed to be able to destroy his beliefs and end everything in his life in an instant. Thank you. Du Xiaofu's figure floated in the air, and all the energy around him disappeared. Looking at Wu Ming, Du Xiaofu knew very well that if it were not for Wu Ming, he would not have been able to get such benefits just now. As for the benefits just now, only Du Xiaofu himself knew best what he had gotten. The surroundings were quiet. Wu Ming stood there with a cold face. At this moment, it seemed like the purple electric arcs that filled the surroundings. There was an indescribable haziness and mystery. Wu Ming's clothes were stained with a drop of blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked up slightly at Du Xiaofu. Surrounded by the vast sky, he had an indescribable feeling. He had been looking for a defeat. That kind of defeat was different from the fights between the elders in the sect. He wanted a real defeat. He knew very well that only when he was really defeated could he go higher and further in the future. Only then could he have a clearer understanding of himself. This was what his master had said to him. But now he was defeated. He was defeated on such an occasion, and he was defeated by the disciple of venerable weapon. This was not what Wu Ming wanted. What did you just comprehend? After a while, Wu Ming looked at Du Xiaofu and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Following my heart, not leaving my original intention, and not forgetting my original intention, Du Xiaofu did not hide it. What kind of sword principle did you just comprehend? Wu Ming asked again. I don't know what to call it. Let's call it dominating sword principle. Du Xiaofu replied. Dominating sword principle. Wu Ming looked up and smiled bitterly. What a domineering name. What a domineering sword momentum. You still have the strength to fight. Do you still want to fight? A real battle? Du Xiaofu asked. Just now, the two of them had only fought using sword principle. They had not fought a real battle. Wu Ming was unfathomable. Perhaps he still had a trump card. I lost the sword principle that I am most proud of. How can I have the face to fight again? After this, if I can't comprehend my sword principle, I will never step out of the Huijian sect. Wu Ming looked at Du Xiaofu. Then he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot. His figure went straight from the third Divine Thunder platform to the fourth Divine Thunder platform. 8. This is 8. It seems that the young Hall Master is going to fight 1 against 10. On the 10th peak of the Divine Thunder mountain range, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Cloud Leopard, and the others in the 7-star hall were all excited. He won. Ha ha ha. Xiaofu won. That old guy from the Huijian sect will never dare to draw his sword in front of me again. On the 6th peak of the Divine Thunder mountain range, Elder Gu Qingyang's arrogant laughter reverberated throughout the mountains. Some of the peaks looked at him with disdain. In particular, the Divine Light Court of the 3rd peak, the Great Luan sect, and the Huijian sect on the other peaks all looked at Elder Gu Qingyang with disdain and hatred. Haha, did you see that? Even in sword principle, my disciple Xiaofu directly trampled on Wu Ming. Elder Gu Qingyang did not care about the disdainful looks around him. He kept patting Elder Yin Mingzi and Elder Hu Sankuan on the shoulders and danced with joy. You have a good disciple. Elder Hu Sankuan couldn't take it anymore. He rolled his eyes at the excited Elder Gu Qingyang, but in his heart, he was also very happy and excited. Of course, he is my good disciple, my precious disciple, who in the entire middle state can be his opponent. Elder Gu Qingyang did not care about Elder Hu Sankuan's rolling eyes and said arrogantly. His voice reverberated in the surroundings. Gu Qingyang, don't boast too early. Be careful that the wind doesn't blow your tongue. There was a mocking and gloomy voice that reverberated throughout the surrounding peaks. Chapter 940. When the voice came, Gu Qingyang immediately looked at the 3rd peak and shouted, Old Taoist of Changdao, don't be so noisy if you dare. Dongli Chihuang of your Daluan sect will be defeated by my disciple soon. What a joke. How can the holy son of my Daluan sect lose? He's overestimating himself. If you dare, let's make a bet. If your disciple loses, Gu Qingyang will call me Grandpa. If the holy son of my Daluan sect loses, I'll call you Grandpa. Do you dare? The old Taoist of Changdao shouted. He had been very frustrated these past few months. He thought that at this moment, his strength had improved a lot, and he was no longer afraid of Gu Qingyang, who knew that after the fight, he was still suppressed by Gu Qingyang. At this moment, the old Taoist of Changdao naturally had full confidence in Dongli Chihuang. If he took the chance to win this round, he would regain all his dignity. On the 6th peak, Elder Gu Qingyang's red face was smiling like a flower. His clear eyes moved. At their current age and status, calling him Grandpa was much more important than losing a Dharma artifact. Old Taoist of Changdao, your bet is too small. If Dongli Chihuang of your Daluan sect loses, you have to call me Grandpa. In addition, you have to give each of the valley, 2 sects, and 3 schools a primary Dharma artifact. Do you dare? Elder Gu Qingyang said loudly. His voice rang through the 10 peaks. As Elder Gu Qingyang's voice fell, the auras on the surrounding peaks suddenly fluctuated. The eyes of the people on the peaks suddenly lit up. The old Taoist of Changdao froze. Then his face darkened even more. He said loudly, Gu Qingyang, just wait to lose. Do you think I'm scared of you? I'm waiting for you to call me Grandpa. Gu Qingyang blew his beard and glared. He had absolute confidence in his precious disciple. This is too cruel. But that Dongli Chihuang, even if he has level 9 spirit, is not easy to deal with. Hu Sankuan, Chang Mingze, and the other elders clicked their tongues. Elder Gu Qingyang was obviously dragging everyone from the 3 sects, 3 schools, 1 valley, and 2 sects down with him. If the old Taoist of Changdao lost, he couldn't deny it. Once he denied it, he would undoubtedly offend all the powers. But Elder Hu Sankuan and the others knew in their hearts. Even though Du Xiaofu defeated John Doe, it seemed that they were competing in the Sword Tao. There were some unexpected factors in Sword. The level 9 spirit was the level 9 spirit level. As for the East Mythical Phoenix, to be able to take first place out of the 10 Heavens favorites was enough to prove how terrifying she was. Whoosh! Du Xiaofu landed on the Divine Thunder platform for the second forging process and took a deep breath. Qiuquan is. A faint and peaceful voice came slowly. The level 9 Spirit Emperor's scarlet robe fluttered without wind. The fluctuating aura on her body could calm people's souls and hearts. Her gaze flickered as she stared at Du Xiaofu. Her eyes shone with divine light, like the stars in the sky, making it hard for one to shift their gaze away. We finally meet again. However, I didn't expect that there would be so many stories about you. You want to see me again, so I came. Du Xiaofu looked at the handsome bald young man with fair and smooth skin in front of him. The latter stood quietly, but an aura of supremacy was unknowingly emitted from him, emitting an extremely dangerous feeling. Level 9 Spirit Emperor's scarlet robe fluttered in the wind. There was a faint luster flowing on her crystal skin. She said, "Although I want you to go up, I have to stop you." "You can't stop me." Du Xiaofu stood there, his purple robe fluttering, his black hair flying, and his eyes emitting a domineering golden light. Follow your heart without worries. This was the way of the sword, and also the way of the martial Tao. Looking up, below the lightning platform and inside and outside the space-time formation array, everyone's heart tightened. They all knew that the real fierce battle was coming. "Little bastard, you will die in the hands of level 9 Spirit Emperor." On the third peak, Leizuan of the Divine Light Court looked at the purple-robed young man in the space-time formation array with hatred. "It's the last 2. We can only win. We can't lose." In the ancient heaven sect, Sima taxing Star's eyes fluctuated with a deep light. "You talk big, but I'm afraid you're not strong enough." Level 9 Spirit Emperor's aura surged out under the Divine Thunder platform. His aura was supreme. The 2 extraordinary young men were facing each other. In an instant, one was domineering and the other was supreme, causing the lightning platform to freeze. Who do you think will win in the end? Below the lightning platform, countless outstanding talents of the same generation had been whispering and discussing in low voices. However, it seemed that the result was about to come out, and they became more and more nervous. Ninefold Spirit has a 90% chance of mastering it. His strength is very strong, and he's a terrifying figure of the infinite sect. Comparing all aspects, although Du Xiaofu is strong, Ninefold Spirit has cultivated the Diamond Sutra of the infinite sect and has an indestructible body. In this sealed ancient land, Du Xiaofu seems to be lacking some foundation. In the whispers, most people thought that level 9 Spirit Emperor had a greater chance of winning because he was a terrifying figure who had cultivated the Diamond Sutra. Don't forget, Du Xiaofu's physical body is also very terrifying. It's said that Du Xiaofu had already fallen, but I didn't expect him to survive. He has been incomparably domineering all the way and is also invincible among his peers in the ancient heaven sect. Such a person may also have a magnificent performance today. Many people were also optimistic about Du Xiaofu and believed that Du Xiaofu could win. At this time, the people of the Infinite Sect, Ancient Heaven Sect, Du Family, World Society, and Seven-Star Hall were all holding their breaths and nervously looking up. The 2 people on the platform stood facing each other, and the space froze. One was incomparably domineering, and the other was supreme. Suddenly, the 2 seemed to have a tacit understanding and rushed out at the same time. A golden light swept out from level 9 Spirit Emperor's palm, and like a golden thunderbolt, it shot towards Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu glanced at it and didn't pay much attention to it. An even more dazzling golden light burst out and met it directly. The two golden lights collided, and the two figures seemed to have turned into two beams of light, rushing towards each other like two meteorites. Boom! The intense battle was faster and more intense than what the crowd had imagined. It was like two peerless, ferocious beasts were colliding, and the rumbling sound immediately caused the surrounding void to rumble. It was soul-stirring. Many of the beast race's elites and sky prides couldn't help but shudder in fear when they saw the ferocious collision. The two humans were even more terrifying than the peerless, ferocious beasts. That kind of terror was simply not something that humans should have. Boom! On the divine thunder platform, level 9 spirit was floating in the air, and her body was wrapped in golden light. At this moment, a golden brilliance was seeping out from her sparkling skin. Then, her entire body turned golden, like a golden monk. At this moment, level 9 spirit didn't hold back her aura at all. Terrifying pressure was released, and the surrounding void rumbled. That was the aura of a martial lord at the peak of the Nirvana realm, and she was only one step away from the complete martial royal realm. Level 9 spirit actually activated the body of Vajra. That's the indestructible body of Vajra. Rumor has it that it won't decay after death, and it's powerful enough to compete with Dharma artifacts. Martial royal realm at the peak of the Nirvana realm, level 9 spirit is indeed necessary. She's stronger than the others. Seeing the level 9 spirit emperor wrapped in golden brilliance, many gasps of astonishment were heard from the surroundings. Behind Du Xiaofu, pieces of golden talisman inscriptions lined up and condensed on his back. Suddenly, they condensed into a pair of golden talisman inscriptions' wings. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body, and the aura of a martial royal realm at the Nirvana realm swept out without reservation. The golden talisman inscriptions' wings on his back flapped, and light overflowed. Majestic light filled the air, and he was like a rock flapping its wings, soaring to the 9 heavens. At this moment, the aura of a golden-winged rock spread out from Du Xiaofu's body, as if a real golden-winged rock had descended. The golden wings were only condensed from talisman inscriptions, but it was like a real golden-winged rock floating in the air, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock clan. What a terrifying pressure! The king of beasts, the golden-winged rock. Looking at the young man wrapped in golden brilliance in the sky, many heavenly talents of the beast clan below the thunder attraction platform felt the terrifying king of beasts' aura, and their bodies and primordial spirits trembled. Even the heavenly talents of the human clan were shocked. So, this is the true strength of the young master. Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, Sun Wu, and the others were shocked. That terrifying pressure made it impossible for them to escape from it. He's also at the Nirvana realm of the martial royal realm. He's finally using his full strength. Sima Muhan looked at the second forging divine thunder attraction, and her light purple eyes were filled with ripples. Chapter 941. An indestructible Vajra body and a human-shaped golden-winged rock clashed violently once again. Boom! The two young prodigies exploded with shocking runic light on the divine thunder platform. One of them was glowing with golden light like a golden Buddhist monk. He was the only one in the world. The other was domineering and fierce like a human-shaped primeval beast. The two youths exchanged blows. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. The two of them were clashing with their Xin Qi. They were also clashing with their profound meanings. They were also clashing with their speed. More importantly, they were clashing with their physical bodies. The two of them were evenly matched and extremely intense. It was hard to tell who was stronger and who was weaker. You are stronger than I thought. Runes spread out from Ninefold Spirit's eyes. His body was strong and vigorous as he soared into the sky. Dazzling runes spread out from the 9-ring scars on his head. The current Ninefold Spirit was different from his usual calm and handsome appearance. He was extremely powerful. You will soon know that I am stronger than you think. Du Xiaofu was like a real golden-winged rock. He flapped his wings and soared into the sky. His black hair was loose, and his eyes were cold. His aura was extremely powerful. Rumble. The two of them clashed continuously with their fists and palms. Spatial ripples exploded as runes surged. It was as if thunder was rumbling. An incomparably gorgeous radiance exploded in the void, as if it was going to destroy the entire void. Every time these two terrifying young prodigies clashed, it was like thunder. Their strength was too strong. It was unimaginable. At this moment, the countless young prodigies below the lightning platform and the countless people inside and outside the space-time talisman array were all shocked. The strength of his physical body was so great that even the top beast race elites were left in the dust. Their faces paled in horror. "The two of them are too scary." Exclamations could be heard everywhere. Everyone could feel that the physical strength of the two youths had reached such a terrifying level. Normal Dharma artifacts would not be able to affect their physical bodies. Some people imagined that if this was a chaotic battle, the two terrifying youths would be able to charge straight through. Just their terrifying physical bodies alone would be able to break people's bones. This is the true strength of the young Hall Master. On the 10th peak of the divine Thunder Mountain, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yaoxing, and the others were dumbfounded. Only now did they know that the purple-robed youth's true strength was so domineering and fierce. Uncle Master Du Mu. In the martial square of the Ancient Heaven Sect, 100,000 Ancient Heaven Sect disciples were shocked. The purple-robed youth was from the Ancient Heaven Sect. They had thought that the heavens were jealous of the heavens in the Heaven Sect. However, at this moment, the purple-robed young man had returned once again. He stood before the entire central continent and used his peerless and domineering attitude to prove his return. That's the Hall is. That's the third son of the Du family, a disciple of the Du family. Below the lightning summoning platform, the Du family disciples were all excited, their blood boiling. As the sons of the Du family, at this moment, they had found a deep sense of belonging. Our president is so abnormal. Duo Sha, Onyet Sha, Intianjue, Silver Fox, and the others stared at the young man who looked like a ferocious beast in human form on the divine thunder platform. At this moment, they were deeply shaken. Back then, Big Brother and Second Brother were right. The president was truly terrifying. He wasn't just a terror, he was a freak. Continue. Du Xiaofu shouted. He flapped his wings and floated in the air. He no longer hid and returned to his heart. Domineering blood flowed in his body. Along the way, no one in the same generation could compare to him. Facing the ninefold spirit, he was confident that he could dominate and suppress his opponent. As Du Xiaofu shouted, he continued to move his body horizontally. He fought with the ninefold spirit at lightning speed, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. Vajra fist. The two separated as soon as they made contact. The ninefold spirit took advantage of the momentum and flew up. Runes spread out from his eyes. He looked down at Du Xiaofu and threw a punch. Boom. The fist seemed to be burning with golden flames. It exploded with endless yang qi. It was like a Buddha had descended from the sky and wanted to subdue the rock. Sky-shaking wings. Du Xiaofu opened his palm, and it was like a cattail leaf fan. Golden talisman markings flickered and condensed into layer upon layer, and it instantly condensed into a pair of golden wings. A tyrannical and ferocious aura suddenly spread out from his body. Du Xiaofu took advantage of the momentum and smashed down. With a forceful shake, his hand directly swept away. Boom. Such a collision caused golden light to erupt. The aura was so strong that it seemed to be able to tear the world apart. The surrounding space was instantly filled with cracks. Even the indestructible divine lightning platform below was trembling at this moment. Ding ding. At this moment, the two were pushed back at the same time and pulled apart the distance between them. You are worthy of me using all my strength. The ninefold spirit looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes were no longer calm. The runes in his eyes became more and more dazzling. His aura began to rise vigorously. It seemed to contain an ancient and terrifying mystery. Then use all your strength. But you still can't stop me. Du Xiaofu stood proudly in the air. His eyes were golden. In the depths of his eyes, there seemed to be the shadow of a golden-winged rock. It flapped its wings and proudly looked up to the 9 heavens. You can't pass. The ninefold spirit raised his head. He stepped on the void and began to walk towards Du Xiaofu. Every step he took would cause a roar in the void. It was like a tiger roar. It was as if he was a peerless divine tiger at this moment. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. With every step the ninefold spirit took, the ancient and terrifying aura on his body would increase greatly. It shook the void and made it tremble. When he took the 7th step, it was as if there were countless divine tigers roaring in the void. Roar. The tiger's roar shook the hearts of everyone. There was an explosion in the void. Runes spread and covered everything. Subduing Tiger Vajrabadi. Suddenly, a young man from the Boundless sect shouted. He was shocked. A young man from the Boundless sect recognized the method the ninefold spirit used. He said in shock, "Senior brother Ninefold Spirit has comprehended the subduing Tiger Vajrabadi. It is said that even the Almighty who could cultivate the Diamond Sutra might not be able to comprehend the subduing Tiger Vajrabadi." Roar. The ninefold spirit took 7 steps and roared like a tiger. Then, he seemed to have turned into an illusory golden divine tiger. At this moment, the ninefold spirit looked like a real god descending to the world. Facing the ninefold spirit, Du Xiaofu also felt a huge pressure. At this moment, it was as if he was facing 100,000 mountains. It was so oppressive that he couldn't breathe. The pressure came from the heaven and earth. It was boundless. Suppress. The ninefold spirit shouted. After 7 steps, his aura was monstrous. That shout was like the roar of a divine tiger. It shook the void. The divine tiger under his feet was like a fierce tiger pouncing on its prey. This scene was shocking. The ninefold spirit rode on the divine tiger's shadow. It was as if the subduing tiger Arhat was about to capture the rock. That terrifying aura could destroy everything. It shook the heaven and earth and made all eyes tremble. Du Xiaofu raised his head. When he opened his eyes, the golden rock in his eyes was about to fly out. The domineering and sharp aura rose. This was the real golden rock descending. It carried the domineering will of the golden rock tribe. It flapped its wings and swept towards the ninefold spirit. Roar. The ninefold spirit's shadow tore through the sky. Du Xiaofu rushed out. His domineering and terrifying aura was monstrous. He flapped his wings and swept across the sky. He was domineering and fierce. Rumble. Such a collision sounded like thunder in the void. A series of rune lights burst forth. They were as gorgeous as fireworks, causing the entire divine thunder cauldron to be dazzling. That terrifying aura was destructive. All living things in the surroundings were trembling. If a martial royal realm cultivator in the full circle was swept away by them, his soul would be destroyed. Among the countless shocked gazes, a genius exclaimed, "Puffed!" In midair, Ninefold Spirit and Du Xiaofu were pushed back at the same time. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. So powerful. As expected of someone who can step into the second body-forging divine thunder platform, Du Xiaofu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He was not depressed. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. His eyes were still as domineering as before. But at this moment, there was a trace of graveness in Ninefold Spirit's eyes that were filled with runes. Just as he retreated a few steps, hand seals condensed and mysterious runes spread out from his body. It was his martial vein, an aura that made one's soul tremble and wanted to let go of all ruthlessness. Greed, anger, and infatuation filled the void. It made one want to prostrate and convert. Oh no, Ninefold Spirit's martial vein is the Shumi martial vein. Suddenly, looking at the aura of Ninefold Spirit on the second divine thunder platform, Sima Muhan's face changed. Deep worry and shock surged in her pale purple eyes. Chapter 942. Senior brother Ninefold Spirit is going to use his strongest strength. Meru Martial Vein. Senior brother Ninefold Spirit is a supreme talent. Du Xiaofu is no match for him. At this moment, looking at the terrifying aura emanating from the Ninefold Spirit in the space above, the young elites of the immeasurable sect smiled. Senior brother Ninefold Spirit was using the martial vein's power. It was an insurmountable mountain. It was Ninefold Spirit's strongest foundation. Rumble. The terrifying aura of the martial vein shook the void. The pressure was so strong that many people below cried out. Human sovereign, Ninefold Spirit is a supreme talent. Many young talents felt the terrifying aura and were so shocked that their jaws almost fell to the ground. The words supreme talent were enough to explain everything. Human sovereigns were the rarest existences in the entire Middle State. There were only a handful of people in the entire Middle State who had the supreme talent, and Ninefold Spirit was one of them. Buzz, buzz. Ninefold Spirit stepped into the void and golden runes flowed around his body. His eyes were overflowing with golden light. It was as if there were countless ancient Buddhas chanting scriptures in the surrounding void, resounding in the sealed ancient land. That voice resounded, as if it carried a power that came from the ancient times. It traversed through time and space, causing everyone to be horrified. Everyone was shocked. Ninefold Spirit was like a real deity descending to the world. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have such terrifying power. Du Xiaofu stepped into the void and spread his wings. Looking at Ninefold Spirit, his gaze wavered. However, Du Xiaofu did not do anything. He was waiting quietly like a dormant divine bird that would soar into the sky at any time and shake the sky. Ninefold Spirit's hand seal continued to form. Suddenly, the surrounding lightning started to fluctuate and golden light started to fall. The golden light surged out from the void and covered the entire void. The aura made people feel peaceful and could eliminate all violence, greed, anger, and hatred. It made people want to put down their weapons and convert willingly. It's too terrifying. If an ordinary martial royal realm cultivator at the peak of the complete realm tried to resist, his spiritual soul would be destroyed. The surrounding sky prides were shocked. It was only at this moment that everyone realized how terrifyingly powerful the Ninefold Spirit was. Can Du Xiaofu still contend against it? The Ninefold Spirit is too strong. It can't be defeated. Countless eyes started to worry for Du Xiaofu. The Ninefold Spirit was too strong, so strong that it was invincible. Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Sima Muhan, Inmachan, Xiangling, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, Stone, Yi Piaoling, and the general were all worried. That Ninefold Spirit was simply too strong, terrifyingly strong. That Ninefold Spirit is really powerful. On the sixth peak of the Divine Thunder Mountain Range, Elder Gu Qingyang clenched his fists as he stared at the space-time charm array. Through the space-time talisman array, Gu Qingyang could also feel how powerful and terrifying that terrifying aura was. Boom. It took a long time to describe, but everything happened in just a few breaths. As the martial veins were activated, the mysterious runes on the charm array flickered and the figure of Ninefold Spirit expanded. Finally, under the cover of the mysterious runes, Ninefold Spirit's body turned into a 3-meter-tall golden giant, like a golden Sumeru. The aura of the golden Sumeru was too terrifying. Its whole body was golden and its aura was terrifying. Its body was like golden jade, emitting a terrifying light. The aura of the golden Sumeru could suppress all evil spirits and destroy all evil spirits. Sumeru demons subduing real body. Subdue demons. Ninefold Spirit's voice was like a Buddha's voice as he attacked swiftly. The Sumeru demons subduing real body condensed the power of the Sumeru martial veins and the Diamond Sutra. The terrifying aura was about to shatter the void. In the next instant, Ninefold Spirit's handprint was like a Buddha's palm. It exploded with dazzling golden light and slammed down on Du Xiaofu. At this moment, the handprint sealed the void and froze the surrounding space. It was a forbidden power. It was too strong and terrifying. Du Xiaofu also moved. Like a dormant divine rock, he began to soar up. His eyes emitted golden light as a terrifying and domineering aura flowed out of his body and shrouded his entire body. Boom! A terrifying aura shook the entire space. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was glowing, as if it was translucent. There were talisman runes covering his entire body, and the joints of his entire body crackled like the rumbling of thunder. At this moment, the aura around Du Xiaofu's body surged and shook the void. It was like a tsunami that surged in all directions, causing the heaven and earth to tremble. Roar! Just as Ninefold Spirit's terrifying handprint was about to collapse, Du Xiaofu let out a roar that sounded like a dragon's roar to the nine heavens and a divine elephant's cry. Du Xiaofu punched out. Countless fist prints appeared in his hand at lightning speed and finally condensed into a fist. Boom! This fist appeared. At this moment, the entire void rumbled. Its aura was domineering and unparalleled. Looking down on all living things, the golden wings on his back flapped. Du Xiaofu did not retreat. Instead, he moved forward. His fist was domineering and domineering. It was like a collision of meteorites as it fiercely collided with the Ninefold Spirit's handprint. With such a collision, the space seemed to be oppressed and twisted together. A huge roar resounded through the void like thunder. Rumble. The surging golden rune energy ripples spread out like a vast ocean, causing the surrounding space to tremble rapidly. The collision between the two shocked the heaven and earth. Wind and thunder roared, and the void was about to collapse. Under the terrifying energy, it caused one's heart to tremble in fear. Dang dang! Under the surging of the terrifying energy runes, millions of people were shocked to see the Ninefold Spirit's handprint shatter. The swollen Sumeru body cracked. Puff, puff, puff. In the end, the Ninefold Spirit's body fell from mid-air. The moment it landed, it barely touched the ground and staggered back a dozen steps. It then spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Chi-la-la, Du Xiaofu's body retreated in a straight line in the void. After a dozen feet, the golden rune wings on his back flapped continuously, and then he stabilized his body. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's face was pale, and his aura was weak. However, the golden light around him was still as domineering as before. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, and he stood proudly. The Ninefold Spirit seems to have been defeated. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. A chill ran down their spines, and their souls were terrified. Not many people would have thought that after the Ninefold Spirit activated the terrifying martial vein power, which could destroy even the divine soul of a cultivator at the peak of the consummate martial royal realm. Not only did Du Xiaofu resist it directly, but he could also defeat the Ninefold Spirit. In this case, Du Xiaofu's strength had reached a terrifying level. I've lost, and I'm convinced of my defeat. The Ninefold Spirit looked at the young man in midair, who was like a peerless, ferocious bird. After the shock, his defeated face turned pale. The Ninefold Spirit smiled bitterly, and his gaze was complicated. There was loneliness, self-mockery, and shock. You let me win. Du Xiaofu was the clearest about the Ninefold Spirit's strength at this moment, and he was also shocked. Du Xiaofu knew that if he hadn't reached the nirvana realm of the martial royal realm, and if he hadn't comprehended the mysterious move after his resurrection, it would be difficult for him to resist the Ninefold Spirit. I went all out, and you didn't even activate the martial vein and vein spirit. How is this letting you win? It's me who lost. The Ninefold Spirit smiled bitterly, and there was a touch of bitterness in his smile. He went all out, but his opponent didn't even activate the vein spirit and martial vein. Such a defeat dealt a blow to his confidence. To the Ninefold Spirit, in the entire Zhongzhou, the only opponent in his eyes had always been Dongli Qihuang. But such a defeat made the Ninefold Spirit know that the young man in front of him had exceeded his expectations. I'll leave Dongli Qihuang to you. Be careful of that guy. As the Ninefold Spirit finished speaking to Du Xiaofu, he tiptoed, and his tall body went straight from the second forging body to the third forging body. Gulp! At this moment, the space below the divine thunder platform was still filled with silence, and the sound of people swallowing their saliva could be heard from time to time. Everyone's gazes were fixed on the young man in purple robes. Perhaps only at this moment did they truly realize just how terrifyingly powerful the young man called Du Xiaofu was. Even the Ninefold Spirit, who was at the peak of the nirvana realm of the martial royal realm, was defeated like that, which was enough to prove everything. The Du family will prosper. Du Yunlong looked up at the sky, and lightning flashed in his eyes. The ancient heaven sect is lucky. In the ancient heaven sect, Sima Taxing Star looked at the space-time talisman formation in the distance, and his glazed eyes were dazzling. Uncle Master Du is mighty, strengthening our ancient heaven sect. In the Tianwu Square, the cheers were endless, and the sound waves went straight to the sky. Everyone's blood was boiling. Chapter 943. On the fourth Forging Divine Lightning platform, Cheng Shengnan raised his head and looked at the pale-faced but domineering purple-robed youth floating in the air. Ripples appeared in his eyes once again. Qi. Du Xiaofu took a step forward and crossed the void with 3 steps. Under countless gazes, he landed on the Divine Thunder platform. The moment Du Xiaofu's figure landed, a dark and cold expression suddenly shot out from the spirit-like eyes of the golden-haired, scarlet-robed young man, whose expression had already turned gloomy. The corners of Dongli Qihuang's mouth curled into a faint smile that was not a smile. She looked at Du Xiaofu indifferently and said softly, "I did not expect that a dead person could be resurrected and appear in front of me at this time. You really surprised me." "Let's do it." Du Xiaofu didn't want to say anything more. He didn't have a good impression of the Great Luan sect and Dongli Qihuang. It wasn't because of Cheng Shengnan, but because the Great Luan sect had attacked Yi Piaoling and the others in the sealed ancient land. "You can't wait to lose? Then I'll fulfill your wish. There are some debts that we can settle at the same time. I've said before that you won't be able to leave this sealed ancient land alive." Dongli Qihuang looked at Du Xiaofu and didn't bother to hide the coldness in his eyes. He didn't make a move back then because it wasn't the right time. But now, he had more than one reason to kill the person in front of him. "You're not qualified." Du Xiaofu's body emitted a golden light and golden runes surged. A terrifying and domineering aura surged. It was as vast as the ocean as he replied to Dongli Qihuang. Du Xiaofu knew that this battle wasn't as simple as a competition. Since the grudge had been formed, it couldn't be resolved peacefully. Du Xiaofu also felt that Dongli Qihuang wasn't a gentleman. He couldn't let him go. Moreover, with Du Xiaofu's personality, how could he let Dongli Qihuang go when he wanted to deal with him? "Qualified. You are indeed qualified for me to take action. This has exceeded my expectations. I originally thought that you were just a clown. It seems that you have some ability." Dongli Qihuang's lips curled into a cold smile. He felt the aura from Du Xiaofu's body, but he didn't seem to care. At the same time, a dazzling light spread out from Dongli Qihuang's body like a holy light. An aura that was absolutely not inferior to Du Xiaofu's aura instantly filled the air. Du Xiaofu glanced at Dongli Qihuang. His determined face cracked into a faint smile. "How noisy. You can coax women with your words, but I'm a man. It's useless against me." As Du Xiaofu's voice faded, a bone-chilling coldness slowly surged from the depths of Dongli Qihuang's eyes. His gorgeous eyes stared coldly at Du Xiaofu, his eyes twitching fiercely. After a while, Dongli Qihuang seemed to take a deep breath. His lips curled into a cold smile. He looked directly at Du Xiaofu and said, "Believe me, you will regret what you said." As his voice faded, the aura in Dongli Qihuang's body surged. It was as if it was about to shake the void with the sound of wind and thunder. "You or the Great Luan sect?" Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. A domineering aura that was not inferior to Dongli Qihuang's also swept out like an erupting volcano. At this moment, Dongli Qihuang's golden hair and red robes fluttered. Light enveloped him. He was extraordinary, as if a human god was awakening. Du Xiaofu's purple robes fluttered. It was as if a peerless, ferocious beast was awakening. The atmosphere and the surroundings suddenly became tense, and an aura that made people tremble swept through the air. At this moment, on the highest Divine Thunder platform below the Divine Thunder Cauldron, there were only 2 figures, one purple and one red, facing each other from afar. The 2 of them stood. Their eyes flashed and terrifying runes appeared. The surrounding void fell into silence. However, everyone could feel that the aura of the 2 people on the Divine Thunder platform in the sky was rising. It started to become more and more powerful and terrifying. On the 4th Divine Thunder platform, Cheng Shengnan looked at the 2 young men standing opposite each other. There was a complicated fluctuation in the depths of his eyes. Boom! The confrontation only lasted for a short moment. The corner of Dongli Qihuang's mouth twitched slightly. A powerful aura suddenly spread out from his body. It was like divine light gushing out, shaking the void. Complete martial royal realm. Dongli Chihuang is in the complete martial royal realm. Dongli Chihuang is indeed stronger than a 9th-level spirit. As Dongli Chihuang's terrifying aura swept out, the people below the divine thunder platform were shocked. At this moment, Dongli Chihuang released his aura of the complete martial royal realm without holding back. It was an existence that surpassed the 9th-level spirit martial royal realm. The complete martial royal realm seemed to be only one step away from the martial king realm. However, at the level of the martial royal realm, everyone knew that the complete martial royal realm and the martial royal realm's peak of the nirvana realm seemed to be only one step away. However, there was a huge difference between the two. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. Dongli Chihuang's aura of the complete martial royal realm shrouded the surrounding void with a continuous and huge pressure. Boom! Du Xiaofu's aura surged. The golden runes on his body flickered as if there were golden flames all over his body. In the depths of his eyes, there was the shadow of the golden-winged rock. Let's end this quickly. Your performance should end soon. As Dongli Chihuang's voice fell, the sharp and cold coldness in his eyes reached its peak. Whoosh! With a shake of his red robe, Dongli Chihuang instantly attacked. His palm was wrapped in holy light and gushed with runes. Then, it turned into the shadow of a real dragon, as if it was alive. Roar! The shadow of the real dragon was like a flying dragon in the sky. It carried a dragon's might and roared at Du Xiaofu. It was extremely terrifying. The terrifying aura made people tremble. That's the ultimacy of the real dragon. It's so powerful. Dongli Chihuang's first attack was the ultimacy of the real dragon, which shocked everyone. In the next moment, under countless shocked gazes, Du Xiaofu attacked. The dazzling golden light around him exploded like the sun. His eyes were full of golden runes. In the next second, Du Xiaofu did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. He stomped on the ground and leaped into the air, pouncing directly at the shadow of the real dragon. Rock's chaotic claw. His right arm shook, and his 5 fingers curled slightly. On his fingertips, mysterious runes flickered as if they wanted to tear the space apart. Du Xiaofu stretched out a claw from his hand. Energy ripples visible to the naked eye spread out from the claw. Whoosh! The golden light of the claw exploded. The dazzling, mysterious runes raged like golden lightning. It was as if a golden-winged rock was about to spread its wings and soar into the 9 heavens. Under such a claw, the densely packed figures around all felt their meridians and souls tremble. Their meridians and souls felt uncomfortable and fearful for no reason. It was as if they were facing a supreme being. Whoosh! The aura of the terrifying claw spread. The shadow of the real dragon did not seem to be the purest form of the ultimacy of the real dragon. There was a faint trace of fear in its eyes. Then, countless golden lightning snakes swept out from the claw. In an overbearing manner, they ruthlessly landed on the shadow of the real dragon. Golden light exploded. It was said that in ancient times, when the golden-winged rock flapped its wings and descended, its sharp claws could capture and tear apart dragons. The terrifying claw fell, and after a short stalemate, the true dragon's silhouette was torn to shreds as if it were a dried twig. However, the claw was also swallowed by the shadow of the real dragon. The runes that filled the sky were shattered, and a terrifying energy storm spread out in an arced hiss. The eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix's eyes darkened. His opponent's claw attack seemed to be able to suppress him. He attacked again. An ancient viper with the body of a dragon, exuding an ancient cold aura, shot towards Du Xiaofu like lightning. The cold aura collapsed the space. Du Xiaofu's eyes turned into rolling purple flames. In an instant, purple flames spread around his body. The shadow of a purple flame demonic phoenix appeared out of thin air. The purple flames rolled. The shadow of the purple flame demonic phoenix was like a purple sun that blotted out the sky. It appeared in an incomparably terrifying manner in front of everyone. Squeak! The purple flame demonic phoenix spread its wings at the ancient viper. A monstrous energy swept out. The purple flames emitted a monstrous aura. The eyes of the purple flame demonic phoenix were like purple suns looking down on the viper. Its sharp claws seemed like they were going to tear the endless void above its head and tear the ancient viper to shreds. Chapter 944. Boom! Dongli Chihuang's palm emitted a dazzling holy light that carried a peerless aura. Then, it destroyed the purple flame demonic phoenix's shadow. What powerful people! Everyone looked at them in awe. The people outside the space-time charm array trembled when they felt the aura. Through the space-time charm array, they could also feel a terrifying aura. You have some tricks up your sleeve, but it's not enough. Dongli Chihuang's face turned gloomy. His body emitted a dazzling holy light, and there was a buzzing sound of wind and thunder. Buzz buzz! The dazzling runes shot up to the sky. Under the holy thunder cauldron, the wind blew and the clouds surged. It affected the surrounding purple lightning as if it could connect with the surrounding purple lightning. In the end, the dazzling runes formed a holy light vortex in the sky. The holy light vortex was filled with an ancient aura that carried a reincarnation light. It emitted a mysterious wave that seemed to remind people of their past lives. Reincarnation cave. That's the Great Luan sect's terrifying technique. Once one is engulfed by it, it can devour one's cultivation and purify one's soul. It's like reincarnation. Someone was shocked as he recognized the terrifying technique. Within the Great Will sect, there were very few people who could activate the reincarnation cave. After all, such a technique was far too frightening. Du Xiaofu also felt the power of the technique. He waved his hand and formed a hand seal. The runes on the talisman exploded, and the enlightenment grass and undying grass ultimacy spread out. The runes on the talisman turned into 2 stalks of grass and appeared in the sky to defend against the reincarnation cave. Whoosh! Holy light burst out, and it was as if the sky was about to be torn apart. The crowd was shocked. The 2 of them activated their ultimacies, and the surroundings became hazy. They collided continuously, and dazzling holy light burst out. Du Xiaofu had just broken through to the Nirvana realm and had used up a lot of energy along the way. Especially after the battle with the 9th level spirit, he was almost depleted. At that moment, Du Xiaofu activated the Enlightenment Grass and Enlightenment Grass ultimacy, but could not defend against the reincarnation cave. He was about to be engulfed by the strange rune vortex. It was enough to show Dongli Chihuang's ability. It was also frightening. Dongli Chihuang was suppressing Du Xiaofu. However, at this moment, he was only suppressing Du Xiaofu with his power Upanishad and cultivation base. He didn't use his body to suppress him. Dongli Chihuang also didn't dare to let Du Xiaofu get close. It seemed that he was absolutely afraid of Du Xiaofu's body, which was even more tyrannical than the 9-fold spirit. Boom! Du Xiaofu's hand seals changed again. The surroundings were enveloped in fluorescent light. Outside of the golden light, it seemed to be covered by a layer of mysterious radiance. Within the golden brilliance of his eyes, it was once again covered by layers of star-like radiance. Light spread out like a star. Then, it resisted the reincarnation cave. It was as if the surrounding void had turned into a night sky. The starlight swallowed his vision, swallowed the light, and also swallowed the light of the runes within the reincarnation cave. In the void, the star ultimacy and the reincarnation cave confronted each other. In the dazzling light, ancient runes flashed and appeared in the void. That terrifying aura dazzled the eyes of countless people. They were extremely shocked. I'm afraid that no one in the martial royal realm in the central province can resist them. Everyone was shocked. There was no need to say more about the terrifying confrontation. Regardless of whether it was Dongli Chihuang or Du Xiaofu, they were definitely 2 young supreme geniuses. Looking at the reincarnation cave in the sky, Du Xiaofu's eyes were golden. His eyes were cold. He stomped his feet in the void, causing the void to tremble. There seemed to be a wave of air spreading out from his feet and shooting up to the sky. As a fist seal formed in his hand, Du Xiaofu roared like a dragon roaring in the 9th heaven and a divine elephant trumpeting. Roar. As he roared, the surrounding void trembled violently. It was overbearing and unparalleled. A low roar like the sound of Sanskrit came from Du Xiaofu's fist. Boom! As the mysterious runes streaked across the sky, in a flash, Du Xiaofu's fist smashed toward the reincarnation cave in an overbearing manner. The collision was not as powerful as everyone had imagined, nor was there a thunderous sound. Crack, crack, however, the reincarnation cave was suppressed by the grass of immortality, the dark seeker grass, and the power of the stars. At this time, Du Xiaofu's mysterious blow finally began to crack. The terrifying energy ripples in the surroundings suddenly swept out like a stormy sea. However, the reincarnation cave only cracked a little before it recovered. The dazzling vortex spun in the void, as if it could swallow everything. It made people's scalps tingle and their hair stand on end. Have you tried your best? As his cold words fell, Dongli Chihuang's figure appeared in the dazzling vortex. It was as if he had become one with the reincarnation cave. The power of the holy light vortex rose even more, and it directly crushed down on Du Xiaofu. Puff! The terrifying pressure descended, as if it wanted to destroy everything. Du Xiaofu spat out a mouthful of blood. Du Xiaofu's gaze turned grave. Du Xiaofu's hand seals changed again. Suddenly, a dazzling, mysterious rune flashed behind him. Under many worried gazes, a golden phantom of a five-fingered mountain appeared behind Du Xiaofu. Boom! As the mountain silhouette appeared, the collapsing vortex of holy light seemed to have sensed something and trembled. The golden phantom of the five-fingered mountain appeared behind him and evolved. It was as if it had been given life. Dense spiritual energy spread and connected with the energy of heaven and earth. A terrifying power spread. Boom! In the face of the sacred light vortex, the phantom of the five-fingered mountain was like a king that could not be bullied. Its aura surged and its aura surged. Multicolored light exploded and forced the sacred light vortex to retreat. The phantom of the five-fingered mountain continued to appear and evolve. It could not be provoked. Du Xiaofu is also an earth vein spirit. Du Xiaofu also has an earth vein spirit. The crowd was shocked. There were very few earth vein spirit cultivators. Moreover, the five-fingered mountain's vein spirit was clearly extraordinary. It seems to be extraordinary. In front of the crowd of 7-star hall disciples, Jiangxin's deep black eyes rippled. On Du Xiaoman's shoulder, Du Xiaoyao looked up. Her golden eyes began to glow. Boom! The phantom of the mountain's vein spirit confronted the sacred light vortex. Golden mysterious runes and sacred light flashed and shuttled back and forth. The phantom of the five-fingered mountain was like a supreme being. It repeatedly collided with the sacred light vortex. Its aura surged, as if it could crush and suppress all things in the world. The sacred light vortex was extremely powerful. It wanted to destroy everything. However, at this moment, the five-fingered mountain's vein spirit behind Du Xiaofu was suppressed. The mountain's vein spirit, shining with golden light, was like a supreme being. It could not be provoked or resisted. The sacred light vortex was gradually suppressed by the mountain's vein spirit, causing Dongli Chihuang's expression to change. Extraordinary earth vein spirit. You really surprise me time and time again. I originally thought that it would be easy to deal with you. Now, it seems that I really need to put in more effort to deal with you. Dongli Chihuang's voice fell from the sacred light vortex that had been pushed back. Then, the aura grew stronger again. The aura grew stronger like a rocket. In just a few breaths, it had reached a new level. The terrifying aura collapsed, causing the chi in the bodies of his peers below the lightning platform to freeze. It was difficult to breathe. The awakened primordial spirit is forcibly raising its cultivation. It is above the peak of the martial royal realm and has reached the half-step martial venerable realm. On the third forging divine lightning platform, ninefold spirit's eyes trembled. As Dongli Chihuang's aura rose again, everything happened extremely quickly. The sacred light vortex's power rose by several levels again, devouring all the energy. In the end, under everyone's shocked gazes, it actually swallowed Du Xiaofu's five-finger mountain phantom vein soul. Dongli Chihuang's soaring aura seemed to have surpassed the martial royal realm. Under the terrifying pressure, Du Xiaofu's five-finger mountain's vein spirit could not resist and was swallowed. The surrounding void seemed to be on the verge of collapse. This is troublesome. On Du Xiaoman's shoulder, Du Xiaoyao's golden eyes trembled violently. Crack, crack, in the void above, the supreme five-finger mountain's vain spirit in the sacred light vortex was finally swallowed and shattered, turning into countless dazzling broken golden runes. Puffed! Du Xiaofu spat out a mouthful of blood and staggered back. I told you, you can't get out of this sealed ancient land. As the cold and indifferent voice fell, Dongli Chihuang's figure strangely appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. The gorgeous eyes of his divine soul were even colder. He flew across the sky and pounced down like a bolt of lightning. A palm print landed on Du Xiaofu's chest. Bang! Du Xiaofu was knocked off the divine lightning platform. The entire divine lightning platform trembled, and he spat out a golden mist of blood again. Chapter 945. Ha ha ha, Gu Qingyang, just wait for me to call you Grandpa. In the divine Thunder Mountain, the voice of the Changdao Taoist echoed in the mountains. He was laughing coldly. Gu Qingyang looked at the space-time rune formation seriously. Compared to him, the safety of his precious disciple was more important. As Du Xiaofu was injured, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Sima Muhan, Shui Ruhan, Lin Weiqi, Yi Piaoling, Qin Guyu, Dongli Diao, Stone, Guoming, and the general were all shocked. On the divine thunder platform, Chang Xinan's eyes moved slightly. His gaze was far away. Boom. Dongli Chihuang's figure swooped down. A palm print with a dazzling light fell from the sky. It was as if a young god was attacking and wanted to shatter Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu stood up. Dongli Chihuang's palm landed on his chest just now. It felt like it was going to shatter his new heart. He looked at the palm that was about to land again and used his physical strength to resist. Come on, Du Xiaofu shouted and threw the square box on his back to the side. Instantly, there was no restriction. Both his speed and ferocity increased again. Du Xiaofu and Dongli Chihuang exchanged blows again. His bravery was unparalleled. Golden runes circled around his body. The two exchanged blows again. The broken runes shone brightly and the energy surged. It was enough to shatter the void. PFFF, after a few moves, Du Xiaofu was sent flying again. Golden blood spurted out from his mouth. Bang! The shadow of a flood dragon swooped down like a living creature. The runes on its scales glowed as it condensed in the hands of the eastern mythical scarlet phoenix. It rushed forward and sent Du Xiaofu flying again. Du Xiaofu was in a panic. He raised his hand and lightning danced. It was dazzling and attacked the flood dragon image with a murderous aura. Du Xiaofu was already covered in blood. His clothes were torn and the surface of his body was blasted. He was seriously injured, but he could still show such a powerful side. It was shocking. Die! Dongli Chihuang's eyes were cold. He attacked again. He was almost a half-step martial honorable. The terrifying aura made the void tremble. A dazzling holy light and runes filled the sky. Half-step martial emperors. Martial emperors. Martial emperors were the true martial emperors of Zhongzhou. The top. Any martial highness realm expert would be famous in the middle continent and would be considered an authority. Although a half-step martial honorable was not a real martial honorable, Dongli Chihuang was the reincarnation of the great Luan sect's expert. He had awakened his previous life's memory. He had forcefully raised his cultivation to the complete martial emperor realm. In addition to his previous life's cultivation, he was a half-step martial honorable. Dongli Chihuang had not completely awakened his previous life's memory. Otherwise, his strength would be much more powerful. Dongli Chihuang was not at the peak of the complete martial emperor realm. He had only raised his cultivation with the help of the secret reincarnation technique. However, he had far surpassed Du Xiaofu. The holy light swept out and shook the void. Terrifying ripples surged toward Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked solemn. He activated the ultimacy in front of him. Once again, he used the ultimacy of the immortal grass, the dark insight grass, and the star energy to form a sea of energy. It collided with the ripples of the holy light, causing the void to collapse. An arrow at the end of its flight. Dong Lichi appeared again and punched Du Xiaofu's chest. Once again, he smashed Du Xiaofu off the divine thunder platform. Golden blood mist filled the air. Du Xiaofu struggled to get up. He wiped the golden blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes shone with a golden light. His meridian soul had been shattered, and he had been severely injured. After that, there were many attacks. In addition, Dongli Chihuang's cultivation had skyrocketed. Du Xiaofu's body began to be covered with cracks. Faint golden blood flowed out of them. Du Xiaofu was still standing tall in front of everyone's eyes. He was incomparably ferocious as he stared at the eastern mythical scarlet phoenix above. He softly muttered, "Just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, and I should be able to absorb and transform. Let's see how long you can last." Dongli Chihuang's expression was cold and gloomy. He did not expect that Du Xiaofu was already at the end of its flight. However, he still could not do anything about it. With a buzzing sound, resplendent talisman scripts surged in Dongli Chihuang's hand. His palm was like a mountain descending, pressing down on the divine thunder platform. This time, Du Xiaofu is going to lose completely. The crowd was extremely shocked. At this moment, Dongli Chihuang was too strong. He was a half-step martial saint, surpassing all his peers. He could tear the universe apart and cause the space to tremble. He could already defeat all his peers. Du Xiaofu leaped into the air and resisted with all his strength. He raised his hand, and a golden light exploded. Ripples appeared in the air like an ocean, drowning the divine thunder platform. Boom! However, in the end, Du Xiaofu crashed into the divine thunder platform from the air again. The divine thunder platform trembled, and terrifying talisman scripts spread out. Du Xiaofu stood up again. At this moment, his hair was disheveled and he was in a sorry state. Even the arm that he used to attack with his palm was bleeding. His chest was almost shattered. Du Xiaofu was severely injured and blood kept spurting out of his mouth. What a strong physical body. Du Xiaofu is so strong. If it were any other cultivator at the peak of the completion martial royal realm, they would have been shattered into pieces. This Du Xiaofu is too terrifying. Why was he unknown in the past? Dongli Chihuang, Zhu Chongling, Wu Ming, and the others are already famous in Zhengzhou. Inside and outside the space-time talisman array, and below the divine thunder platform, everyone was surprised. Du Xiaofu was too ferocious. His physical body was terrifying and ridiculously powerful. However, in the past, Du Xiaofu was unknown in the entire Zhengzhou. At this moment, he had appeared out of nowhere. However, even if he was defeated today, no one would think that he was a loser. This was because Dongli Chihuang already had the aura of a half-step martial venerable. Du Xiaofu was definitely invincible among his peers. If the two of them were at the same cultivation level, even Dongli Chihuang would not be able to defeat Du Xiaofu. Young Hall Master, hold on. Third Brother, hold on. President. Below the lightning platform, the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall, the disciples of the Du family, and the disciples of the World Society were trembling. Their expressions were grave, and their eyes were filled with worry. Martial Uncle Du, you must hold on. In the ancient heaven sect, the hundreds of thousands of disciples burst into countless voices. All the disciples clenched their fists tightly and watched every move nervously. Bang! Everyone was surprised and grave. They fought again on the divine lightning platform. Dongli Chihuang attacked fiercely again and again. His body was shining brightly, and his killing intent was undisguised. Uffed! Du Xiaofu had just stood up when he was pushed back again. Blood dripped from his mouth. His injuries were getting worse and worse. The celestial qi in Du Xiaofu's God's Gate had been exhausted. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was severely injured and dispirited. It seemed like he would die at any time. However, although Du Xiaofu's expression was grave, there was a kind of anticipation in his eyes. He muttered softly, "It should be about time. It should be fine after one more time." Du Xiaofu was looking forward to it. The celestial qi in his body was exhausted, and his body was so heavily injured that it was about to explode at any time. However, there was a majestic vitality boiling in his newly born heart. Back then, he had been reborn in the midst of destruction. Later on, he had absorbed the energy of the stars in the seven-star light pool to refine his body. All kinds of energy had tempered his body, allowing his body to improve to an abnormal level. However, Du Xiaofu knew that if he wanted his body to improve again, he would have to enter a kind of extreme realm. Back then, the energy that his body had absorbed was only contained within his body. It had not truly fused with his body perfectly. Du Xiaofu had always wanted to completely fuse the energy contained within his body with his body and allow his body to rise to another level. He had also secretly used many methods, but none of them worked. Now that his body had reached its current state, it was simply too difficult to strengthen it again. It was only when he was struck by Dongli Qihuang's attack that Du Xiaofu thought that he might be able to borrow Dongli Qihuang's power to allow his body to reach the extreme realm of heavy injuries. Perhaps this fight would allow him to seize a good fortune. As the injuries to his body became more and more severe, Du Xiaofu also felt that there was a dormant energy fluctuating in his body, but it was still lacking by a bit. Bam! Suddenly, his back was struck by Dongli Qihuang's palm once again. Du Xiaofu's back cracked open and was dripping with blood. His body flew out horizontally, brushing past the divine thunder stage. Crackle! Du Xiaofu's entire body smashed onto the divine thunder stage. Stained with blood, can he still resist? Inside and outside, millions of eyes were filled with astonishment. Du Xiaofu was hit again and again, making people unable to bear to look at him directly. Hold on. Du family, World Society, Ancient Heaven Sect, and Seven-Star Hall. The eyes of many trembled violently, and their hearts were trembling. Du Xiaofu struggled to get up. He could feel that his back was almost completely split open. Blood gushed out, and light spread out from Du Xiaofu's body. There was a violent fluctuation rippling. His entire body was glowing, as if every inch of his flesh was fluctuating with energy. Lightning flashed, starlight poured down, and there was the aura of the immortal grass and dark insight grass. There was also the burning of purple flames. All the energy gathered in an incomparably dazzling manner, and endless radiance sprinkled down. PFFF. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's body shook violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body immediately staggered back. The injuries on Du Xiaofu's body became more serious, and the cracks on the surface of his body became bigger and more numerous. Failed. Why did I fail? Du Xiaofu was furious. He endured the intense pain and roared silently. In the last attack from Dongli Qihuang, Du Xiaofu clearly felt that the energy contained in his body was about to truly fuse with his body. However, he didn't know why it suddenly failed, as if something was missing. That feeling made Du Xiaofu feel like an explosive that lacked a spark to guide it. Chapter 946. Am I really going to lose today? Du Xiaofu struggled to get up. His body was in tatters, and he looked like he would collapse at any moment. He was holding on with his last breath. Don't fight anymore. Give up. Below the lightning guiding platform, Ouyang Shuang, Sima Muhan, Zhu Shui, Du Xiaoman and many other women looked at the young man who was dripping with blood and was about to shatter. Their eyes were filled with tears. What they did not know was that Du Xiaofu could only win this battle. Is it really going to end like this? In the ancient sky sect, Sima Taxing's eyes were filled with unwillingness. He muttered, I don't want to give up. If we were at the same cultivation level, I would be able to defeat him easily. However, I'm still a little lacking. If I can win, my ancient sky sect will have a peerless honorable. Boom! Dongli Qihuang did not hold back and attacked again. Du Xiaofu did not even have time to gather his energy before he was sent flying again. He landed heavily on the edge of the divine thunder platform and almost fell down. At that moment, Du Xiaofu's clothes were stained with blood. His entire body was bright red. Du Xiaofu fell on the divine thunder platform. His body was in pieces. At that moment, it was as if even the slightest ripple of energy could cause his body to disintegrate. Dongli Qihuang was too strong. He was a half-step martial honorable. He was extremely strong. Martial emperors could not be compared to him. Brother, you can do it. You can do it. Du Xiaoqing had tears in her eyes. She clenched her fists, and her beautiful body trembled. Pucci, Du Xiaofu's mouth was dripping with blood. He struggled a few times, but he could no longer stand up. You can't stand up, right? You are no match for me. I will keep my word. You won't be able to walk out of this ancient land. Dongli Qihuang floated in the air. His eyes were filled with coldness. He slowly walked towards Du Xiaofu, who could no longer struggle to get up. He enjoyed the gazes of millions of people. In the end, I'm still lacking in cultivation. Zhu Chongling sighed and shook her head. Her eyes were dim. Nameless looked up. His eyes were dim and filled with pity. Cheng Shengnan looked up. Her ethereal eyes trembled slightly with complicated emotions. President, hold on. Young master, hold on. Martial Uncle Du, you can do it. Brother Xiaofu, stand up. Below the lightning summoning platform, the disciples of the World Society, 7 Stars Hall, Ancient Heaven Sect, and Du Clan were all shouting in a low voice. TSK, TSK, Gu Qingyang, your disciple is no match for me. On the third peak of the Holy Thunder Mountain, the old Taoist of Changdao sneered. Dongli Chihuang walked towards Du Xiaofu. His aura was fluctuating. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He sneered with disdain. You came out of Stone City. You have some talent and obtained a lot of opportunities. You were even able to come back from the dead. You were lucky enough to set foot on the Holy Thunder platform. But now, let me end you. No one can save you today if you touch the disciples of the Great Luan sect. As soon as he finished speaking, Dongli Chihuang's aura surged. He attacked again. Senior Brother Red Phoenix, Chang Shengnan's voice came from the Holy Thunder platform. Dongli Chihuang's eyes flashed with an untraceable look. A bright light fell from his hand. In the eyes of hundreds of millions of people, Dongli Chihuang's method drowned out Chang Shengnan's voice with the sound of wind and thunder. It fell heavily on the back of Du Xiaofu, who was lying on the Holy Thunder platform. Piffed! Du Xiaofu's struggling body spat out blood mist again. Under the heavy attack, he finally exhausted the last bit of strength in his body and destroyed everything in his body. The oil in Du Xiaofu's lamp had run out, and his entire body was dim. Finally, Du Xiaofu's struggling body fell limply to the ground, unable to move anymore. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's vitality was disappearing. It was as if he was completely dead. Boom! On the fourth Holy Thunder platform, Cheng Shengnan staggered back. His distant and ethereal eyes were empty. Brother! Bastard! Xiaofu! Du Xiaoqing, Sima Muhan, and Zhu Shui shouted at the same time. Boom! Boom! The three of them wanted to jump into the sky, but under the invisible pressure, they directly fell down. Once they fell into the void, it would be difficult for them to step back up. Below, Yi Piaoling, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Ouyang Shuang, Lin Weiqi, Dongli Jiao, and Shi Tu were in a daze. Their hearts trembled violently as if they were crushed by a 10,000 gene boulder. Xiaofu, my disciple. In the Holy Thunder Mountain Range, Elder Gu Qingyang sorrowfully shouted. His beloved disciple came back from the dead, but at this moment, he couldn't see him for the last time. Martial Uncle Du. In the Ancient Heaven Sect, in front of the space-time array on the Heaven Martial Square, hundreds of thousands of disciples were solemn. Each of them clenched their fists. Their nails dug into their skin, causing blood to flow out. You overestimate yourself. I said that you won't be able to walk out of this ancient land. The Eastern Flame's Scarlet Phoenix looked indifferently at the lifeless body covered in blood. Then, it slowly left with a smile on its face. Its eyes regained its divine soul brilliance, and its gloomy coldness receded, making it look even more extraordinary. Boom! At this moment, just as Dongli Chihuang turned around and took a few steps away, a majestic aura suddenly spread out behind him. Dongli Chihuang immediately turned around, and his eyes were filled with shock. In his eyes, he saw Du Xiaofu, who had just lost his vitality, suddenly sweep out with boundless energy. Du Xiaofu's body, which was lying on the ground, began to emit dazzling runes. The cracks on his body were visibly healing at lightning speed. In a short period of time, Du Xiaofu's body was completely healed, leaving no trace behind. At the last moment when Du Xiaofu's oil ran out, a surge of boiling energy began to flow from his newly reborn heart to his 5 viscera and 6 bowels, then to his limbs and bones. As the surging life energy flowed through his body, it was like a fuse. The accumulated energy hidden in the deepest parts of his body was instantly released, surging up like an ocean. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's entire body glowed. Arcs of electricity flowed from his body, and starlight enveloped him. Purple flames burned, and the grass of immortality and nether enlightenment grass entwined around him. He turned into a resplendent divine light that soared into the sky. Then, under countless gazes, Du Xiaofu's body began to stand up. He stood up perfectly fine. He stood up. Third brother stood up. The Du family's son's eyes flickered with lightning as he loudly shouted, "Young Hall Master is so brave." The disciples of the Seven-Star Hall were in a state of desolation. When they suddenly saw this scene, they couldn't come back to their senses. They cried out excitedly, their blood boiling. Du Xiaofu stood up. The resplendent light on his body was about to drown the entire divine thunder platform. His wounds had already healed, and his aura was recovering at a terrifying speed. The energy hidden in the depths of his body was now perfectly fusing with his body that had recovered from its serious injuries. At this moment, everyone could feel that Du Xiaofu's body was becoming stronger. Life after death. This death is not the same as the death. Wildfire can't burn it away, and I'll be reborn when the spring breeze blows. My body was shattered and my profound energy was exhausted, but I have an endless vitality. I'll start from the beginning and become stronger and stronger. Du Xiaofu slowly rose into the sky, muttering softly. Resplendent divine light erupted from his eyes, like two small suns. At this moment, the energy hidden in Du Xiaofu's body was completely released. It nourished his body, refined it, and completely fused with his body. At this moment, not only did Du Xiaofu's heart contain the grass of immortality, the dark seeker grass, the purple flame demonic phoenix, and the energy of the stars. At this moment, even Du Xiaofu's body began to contain these great mysteries and great energies, perfectly fusing with his body. The exhausted, profound energy in the divine watchtower in his body was rapidly recovering, like a torrential flood. Not long after, the divine watchtower began to fill up, as if it was about to overflow. The feeling of recovering from the extreme realm made Du Xiaofu unable to help but cry out loudly. His shout was like the cry of a divine elephant, like the roar of a dragon. He's strengthening in the extreme realm. Dongli Qi Huang has been used by him all this time. At this moment, on the divine thunder platform, Juling, Wu Ming, Zhang Ruolin, and Ling Jun, and the many geniuses and outstanding talents below all had intense fluctuations in their eyes. At this moment, it wasn't difficult for everyone to realize that Dongli Qi Huang hadn't really won it all from the beginning, but had been used by Du Xiaofu all this time. Du Xiaofu wanted to use Dongli Qi Huang's power to make himself fall into a kind of extreme realm, so that he could be reborn from destruction and seize a kind of fortune. Facing Dongli Qi Huang, Du Xiaofu actually dared to let himself fall into the extreme realm. Everyone couldn't help but be shocked and shocked. Du Xiaofu is a madman. He doesn't want to live anymore. He's also a freak. Any peerless genius is a madman. The outstanding talents around were stunned and lost their voices. They couldn't help but sigh at their inferiority. No wonder that guy's physical body was so freakish. It was because he was a madman, a freak who didn't even care about his life. He must be killed. Dongli Qi Huang was also shocked. He felt that something was wrong and immediately attacked again. At this moment, he had already used all his strength. He couldn't give Du Xiaofu any more chances. Dongli Qi Huang's intuition told him that he had to kill Du Xiaofu. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. A handprint condensed in Dongli Qi Huang's hand. A terrifying aura covered the sky and covered the earth. It was as if a fiend god had descended, divine and majestic. World cleansing seal. Dongli Qi Huang bellowed. The handprint condensed in the void and looked down on the world. The terrifying handprint was surrounded by light fluctuations. Wherever it passed, it destroyed the void. It was as if it could purify and destroy all living things in this world. There is Tai Chi in Yi. It is the birth of Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang give birth to the four symbols. The four symbols gather in Xian Huang, stabilizing the world and suppressing all living things. As Du Xiaofu muttered something, his hands formed seals with lightning speed. After images flew out, and the profound energy in his body poured out like a torrential flood. It condensed along the handprint and rolled in front of him. In the end, it condensed into a handprint. As the handprint condensed, the surrounding void started to tremble violently. The handprint shone brilliantly, as if it was a piece of resplendent gold. The golden handprint floated above Du Xiaofu's palm. A powerful energy pressure spread out from it, causing the space to tremble violently. The golden handprint wasn't just a martial skill. It was a martial technique that contained countless profundities. It contained the profundities of heaven and earth and the mysteries of yin and yang. The golden handprint made countless gazes look at it. They couldn't help but feel their hearts jump and their souls tremble. That handprint seems to have been left behind by that terrifying existence. Outside the ancient Heaven Sect's Tianwu Square, on a mountain peak, Sima Taxing's eyes couldn't help but tremble violently as he looked at the golden handprint in Du Xiaofu's hand. Xiaoyang's seal. Du Xiaofu made his move. The handprint overbearingly streaked across the sky. In a flash, it collided with Dongli Qihuang's handprint. The two terrifying handprints collided with each other under the watchful gazes of the crowd. An earth-shattering sound abruptly resounded in the sky. Rumble. The two handprints collided with each other, and terrifying rune energy ripples swept out like stormy waves. At the center of the energy storm, the surrounding space seemed to have collapsed, creating a huge pitch-black hole. The hole was pitch black, and it devoured the light of energy. It made one's heart turn cold. The two energies collided, and the light was annihilated almost at the same time. Walala! The energy storm that swept out like a storm also came to a sudden stop. Then, it dissipated under countless shocked gazes. Everything returned to normal. Thud-thud, Du Xiaofu and Dongli Qihuang were both knocked back in a straight line. But this time, everyone saw with their own eyes that Du Xiaofu actually resisted Dongli Qihuang head-on. Big chapter. Continue writing. Today, there will be a debt repayment. Chapter 947. He seems to have become much more powerful. That martial skill is even more overbearing. Ninefold Spirit, Nameless, and the other supreme talents were shocked. At that moment, Du Xiaofu was obviously much more powerful. He could actually resist Dongli Qihuang's attack. That martial skill was even more overbearing and terrifying. He can actually resist my world-purifying seal? Looking at Du Xiaofu, Dongli Qihuang's face turned gloomy again. At that moment, the Eastern Parting Crimson Phoenix also felt that the situation was a little tricky. Du Xiaofu's actual cultivation level was only at the Nirvana realm of the Martial Emperor realm. However, the endless great ultimacy and great techniques all over his body were frightening. In addition, with the help of Du Xiaofu's terrifying physical strength, even if he wanted to kill Du Xiaofu now, it would be really troublesome. What worried Dongli Qihuang even more was that the kid had clearly lost his vitality. However, he was able to recover in an instant and even become stronger. This was unbelievable and too terrifying. This terrifying Du Xiaofu was younger than him and did not have the help of his mental state from his previous life. However, he was still extremely terrifying. If he continued to cultivate, it would not take long for him to become a huge threat to the Great Luan sect. At that time, he might even be on par with him. Thinking of this, Dongli Qihuang's face twitched. Instantly, a strong killing intent exploded in his heart, especially when Cheng Shengnan shouted for him previously. He was even more determined to kill Du Xiaofu. With a gloomy face, a bright sacred light fluctuated. Dongli Qihuang started to activate his martial vein. Dazzling mysterious runes spread out and intertwined with each other. A terrifying aura suddenly descended. Boom! Under this terrifying aura, the void suddenly boiled. It swallowed the light and caused the void to tremble. It was as if a boundless catastrophe was coming. Only Dongli Qihuang stepped into the void alone. Light shone brightly as if a deity had descended. Endless aura swept around him. Reincarnation martial vein. Another person with supreme talent. The surrounding sky prides were stunned. At this moment, the aura coming from Dongli Qihuang's martial vein was so strong that it made people want to crawl. Let's end this. It's time to end this. Dongli Chihuang bellowed, activating the reincarnation martial vein. With a wave of his hand, waves of resplendent holy light runes filled the sky. Divine power shook the world, sweeping towards Du Xiaofu. That terrifying aura wanted to bring Du Xiaofu into the cycle of reincarnation and kill him within it. Seems like an extraordinary martial vein. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. Just as the reincarnation energy swept over, a mysterious rune spread out and transformed into a net of light that covered his entire body. Boom! At this instant, an ancient pressure and aura caused the countless outstanding talents below the lightning-luring platform to tremble, and they couldn't help but want to prostrate themselves. It made people feel as if they were facing a king that could not be resisted. A tyrannical killing intent rippled through the sky. What a terrifying aura! At this moment, Juling and many other Sky Pride's expressions changed abruptly. Rumble, below the void, thunderclouds occupied the area. Rumbling thunder resounded and purple lightning wreaked havoc. An aura that made one's soul palpitate suddenly rippled and spread in this part of the void. It was still spreading into the distance, causing all living beings to feel fear. At the same time, Du Yu and Du Shui among the disciples of the ancient heaven sect immediately screamed. The blood in their bodies was boiling, and something within their internal organs, muscles, and marrow seemed to be awakening and about to burst out. Chi-la-la, at this moment, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and the other disciples of the Du family all looked at the sky with trembling eyes. Lightning spread over their bodies, and the lightning on Du Yunlong and Du Xiaoman's bodies was the densest. Thunder rumbled, and the entire void trembled. The terrifying killing aura fluctuated, and the purple lightning seemed to have turned into countless spiritual snakes that shuttled through the void. It made people's hair stand on end, and their hearts turn cold. Dongli Chihuang's reincarnation martial vein could not get close to the lightning aura at this moment. Du Xiaofu finally used his lightning martial vein. This was also the first time Du Xiaofu had used his lightning martial vein. In the past, Du Xiaofu had only used the power of lightning. He had never truly used his lightning martial vein. That's Du Xiaofu's martial vein? Below the lightning platform, all the Sky Prides and elites were shocked. At this moment, the aura of Du Xiaofu's martial vein was too terrifying. It was not inferior to Dongli Chihuang's reincarnation martial vein at all. At this moment, anyone could feel that Dongli Chihuang's martial vein was in front of Du Xiaofu's martial vein. However, Dongli Chihuang could still barely resist it by relying on many mysterious methods related to the reincarnation secret technique. What kind of martial vein is this? Dongli Chihuang's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. At this moment, he was truly shocked. At this moment, Dongli Chihuang could clearly feel the terrifying aura of Du Xiaofu's martial vein. It was like a supreme martial vein, making others fear it and not dare to approach. This Du Xiaofu is too terrifying. I must kill him today. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble in the future if I let the tiger return to the mountain. Dongli Chihuang's killing intent rose to the peak. If he did not kill this kid today, once he left this ancient land, he would be like a tiger returning to the forest or a dragon returning to the sea. At that time, it would be difficult to get rid of this kid. The experts of the ancient sky sect and the seven-star hall would definitely fight with all their strength. At this point, Dongli Chihuang went all out. He used all kinds of magical means, and the power rose. He wanted to kill Du Xiaofu with all his strength. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu used the real thunder martial vein, like a supreme martial vein. Du Xiaofu's thunderbolt martial vein had a domineering murderous aura that swept across everything. No matter what the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix used, she could not get close to it. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu seemed to be suppressed by his own cultivation level. He could not really do much to Dongli Chihuang. Chi-la-la, the purple lightning that filled the sky shuttled back and forth. Suddenly, the void trembled. The purple lightning raged like countless bombs exploding. The destructive power soared into the sky, and the low sound of thunder resounded in this world. At this moment, the purple lightning fluctuation seemed to be faintly connected with the purple lightning arcs around the divine thunder cauldron. Chi-la-la, The purple lightning arcs around the first divine thunder platform gathered above the first divine thunder platform. The purple lightning arcs gathered became denser and denser, and the light became brighter. Chi-la-la, the two martial veins confronted each other, and a terrifying aura rippled. Du Xiaofu's eyes were like huge waves in a sea of lightning. His body flashed with lightning, and his aura was terrifying to the extreme. Dongli Qihuang's body was wrapped in sacred light. He used all kinds of powerful means, and the world was dazzling. He looked majestic and proud in the sky. At this moment, the two's martial veins were fighting, and the geniuses of the same generation almost knelt down. The pressure of the martial veins came from heaven and earth, and people could not help but want to kowtow. That martial vein is too strong. What kind of martial vein does Du Xiaofu have? It's even stronger than Dongli Qihuang's martial vein. Has it surpassed the human sovereign level? A rogue genius was shocked and trembled. President is too strong. If they were at the same cultivation level, he would have killed Dongli Qihuang in an instant. Duo Sha's eyes were trembling, and he was so excited that his blood was boiling. Two terrifying fellows. Both of them are so terrifying. Cries of shock rang out from all around. The battle between the two of them caused everyone to tremble and break down. Even their souls trembled. Du Xiaofu seems to be slightly weaker because of the difference in cultivation level. After a long confrontation, someone could see that Du Xiaofu was suppressed. The dark qi in his body could not support the consumption. This was because of the difference in cultivation level. Let's see how long you can last. After all, you are only at the nirvana realm of the martial royal realm. Dongli Qihuang shouted coldly. He wanted to use the advantage of his cultivation level to squeeze Du Xiaofu dry, and then kill him in one fell swoop. Above the void, amidst the purple lightning, Du Xiaofu's black hair draped over his shoulders. Lightning flashed in his eyes continuously. There was an indescribable majesty about him. He was like a young god, capable of punishing and killing all living things in the world. I can't last long. Du Xiaofu looked at Dongli Qihuang, and then looked up at the purple lightning arcs that were gathering in the surrounding void. He felt that the thunder martial vein in his body could be connected with the bright purple lightning arcs. Du Xiaofu's lips curled into a smile, and he said lightly, however, I can break through here, but you can't. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu waved his hand, opened his mouth, and sucked in the purple lightning arcs in the sky. A huge suction force suddenly filled the air and rushed up to the sky. Rumble. The purple gold lightning arcs in the sky were attracted by Du Xiaofu. As soon as Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and inhaled, they immediately fluctuated violently and turned into a large number of terrifying purple gold thunderbolts. With a rumbling sound, a large number of purple gold thunderbolts descended from the sky. Sizzle. The purple lightning was like countless bombs exploding. It fell from the sky with a destructive force, and then fell directly on Du Xiaofu's body. These purple lightning arcs, which were powerful enough to destroy everything, fell on Du Xiaofu's body, but then they disappeared and were finally absorbed by his body. At this time, Du Xiaofu's body was like a bottomless pit, absorbing the power of the purple lightning. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's thunder martial vein surged and covered his whole body. A magnificent and desolate aura spread. The blazing lightning around his body was like a rising sun, greedily absorbing the purple lightning arcs. After absorbing the terrifying lightning energy, Du Xiaofu's aura immediately began to rise. The energy contained in the purple lightning aura was powerful and terrifying. However, at this moment, these purple lightning arcs were like Du Xiaofu's. The terrifying lightning energy entered his body, causing Du Xiaofu's aura to rise like a rocket. Rise, rise rapidly. Rumble. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Du Xiaofu floated in the air, covered with lightning. The supreme aura spread from his body, as if to suppress the world. Du Xiaofu had already experienced the benefits of absorbing the purple lightning arcs. At this time, when he saw the purple lightning arcs gathering in the void, he did not hesitate to swallow and absorb them directly. At this moment, it seemed that because of the thunder martial vein, under the thunder platform, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Du Yu, Du Shui, and other disciples of the Du family were also being struck by the purple lightning arcs. Du Yunlong and the others were covered with lightning arcs. Their auras were rising, which shocked and stunned the outstanding talents of the same generation. How could this be? The Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix sensed Du Xiaofu's rising aura, and his expression changed drastically. If this continued, it would definitely be disadvantageous to him. Dongli Qihuang tried his best to stop Du Xiaofu, but he found that he could not stop him at all. He could only watch Du Xiaofu crazily swallow the lightning arcs and rise. Is he breaking through by swallowing the holy thunder inside? At this moment, outside the space-time charm formation, billions of people were watching everything and trembling. On the third peak of the Holy Thunder Mountain, the old Taoist of Changdao could not laugh anymore. On the sixth peak, Elder Gu Qingyang had a smile on his face at this moment. A great turn of events has happened. God bless the 7-star hall. On the 10th peak, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yao Xing, Elder Yin Xuanlong, and other elders of the 7-star hall were so excited that their bodies were trembling and their eyes were red. Du Xiaofu's aura rose. When it reached a certain critical point, it started to slow down. However, at this slow speed, his aura rose a lot more vigorously. It seemed that he was accumulating power, so he was suppressing it and waiting for the right moment. At this moment, the bright purple lightning arcs that had gathered in the void around him were almost all swallowed by Du Xiaofu. Only the purple lightning arcs around the holy thunder cauldron that were isolated from the outside world were indestructible and unshakable. Du Xiaofu could not absorb and swallow them. Not long after, the lightning arcs in Du Xiaofu's eyes lit up the sky like two bright suns. Sizzle! 2 solid lightning arcs suddenly shot up to the sky from Du Xiaofu's eyes and shot into the void holy thunder cauldron. At this moment, the suppressed aura in Du Xiaofu's body burst out from his body like a volcano. Rumble! Around the first forging body divine thunder platform, countless lightning arcs shot up to the sky and exploded continuously with a destructive aura. The purple-gold lightning raged around as if there were countless bombs exploding. Everyone's eardrums were stinging, their minds were dizzy, and they were terrified. In the next moment, the Void Legacy and Du Xiaofu's aura also reached a new height. Complete martial royal realm, Zhu Chongling, Wu Ming, Jiang Ruolin, and Ling Jun, Cheng Shengnan, Sima Muhan, Zhu Shui, and the others raised their heads and trembled. They could not help but exclaim in shock. At this moment, the terrifying youth had broken through from the Nirvana realm to the complete martial royal realm in such a domineering way in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone was terrified. Regardless of how talented they were, it would take a few years for them to cultivate normally. It also depended on their luck. But now, the purple-robed youth had broken through so easily. Amidst the shock, all the geniuses began to droop their heads dejectedly. This was practically a death sentence for them. This guy is too terrifying. Today, even if we have to pay a high price, we have to kill him. There will be endless trouble. Just as Du Xiaofu broke through to the complete martial royal realm, Dongli Qihuang's killing intent also exploded. With his eyes red, Dongli Qihuang formed a hand seal and spat out a mouthful of blood essence. Then, the dazzling holy light runes around him turned into a dazzling path in front of him. This path spread out from the void. The surroundings were dazzling, illusory, and blurred, distorting the space. On both sides of the path, there seemed to be golden light spreading out. Illusory figures of fairies were faintly discernible, and they looked extremely sacred. This path was mysterious and sacred. Everyone yearned for it, as though it was leading to the Nirvana realm. The divine sound in the path was deafening, causing people's bodies to tremble. Their souls resonated with it, as though they wanted to step into it and be shrouded by the holiness. Under the holiness, some geniuses could feel that once they were shrouded by the path, they would be doomed eternally. Reincarnation path. Enter the reincarnation. Dongli Qihuang shouted. The reincarnation path in the void spread out directly toward Du Xiaofu. At this moment, the path could directly resist the terrifying thunderbolts in the surroundings. It could also resist the oppression of the thunder martial vein around Du Xiaofu. The path spread directly toward Du Xiaofu, as though it wanted to send Du Xiaofu into the reincarnation path. Du Xiaofu's eyes were fluctuating with thunderbolts. He waved his hand and thunderbolts gathered. In front of countless shocked gazes, they gathered into a huge purple-gold thunderbolt rock. The purple-gold thunderbolt rock's illusory figure hovered in the sky. Its eyes, which were bigger than lanterns, shot out two blazing purple-gold thunderbolts. Coo! The purple-gold thunderbolt rock's illusory figure shrieked. Its voice seemed to pierce through the sky of the sealed ancient land. Rumble. As the purple-gold thunderbolt rock spread its wings, huge purple-gold thunderbolts fell from its wings. They pierced through the space barrier and landed on the reincarnation path. The purple-gold thunderbolt arc raged in the sky. The thunderbolt arc actually destroyed the reincarnation path. Puffed. Dongli Qihuang spat out blood. A large mouthful of blood mist spurted out from his mouth as the reincarnation path was destroyed. Du Xiaofu stood on top of the purple-gold thunderbolt rock's illusory figure. His eyes were like a rolling sea of thunderbolts. His body was covered with thunderbolt arcs and connected with the purple-gold rock. A vast and unparalleled aura suddenly spread in all directions like a tide. I have said that if you want to keep me here, you, Dongli Qihuang, are not qualified. His domineering words resounded like thunder on the divine thunder platform. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's body swooped down. With a wave of his hand, a thunderbolt palm print instantly landed on Dongli Qihuang's body. Bang! As the thunderbolt palm print landed, purple-gold thunderbolt arc surged into Dongli Qihuang's body. There was a terrifying, murderous aura in the palm print. It was ancient and domineering. With destruction, it forcefully destroyed Dongli Qihuang's martial veins. Puffed, puffed. Dongli Qihuang's body fell from mid-air. He spat out mouthfuls of blood. In the end, under the trembling gazes of millions of people inside and outside, he was slammed down from the divine thunder platform. He was drenched in blood. Xiaoyu, continue to write a 5,000-word chapter. Chapter 948. Dongli Qihuang has been defeated. As Dongli Qihuang crashed onto the ground, the crowd below the lightning summoning stage instantly exclaimed in shock. Many gazes trembled violently. At that moment, the purple-gold lightning rock in the sky dissipated. Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in lightning. His eyes were filled with killing intent as his body swooped down like a bolt of lightning. Chi. Then, under countless shocked gazes, Du Xiaofu's figure landed beside the falling Dongli Qihuang. He swooped down with his fist and directly punched towards Dongli Qihuang's head. Looking at how terrifying this punch was, if Dongli Qihuang's head was hit by it, his brain matter and blood would definitely spurt out. Du Xiaofu's fierce and murderous attack also stunned countless gazes in the arena. From the looks of it, the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix wanted to kill Du Xiaofu, and Du Xiaofu had long wanted to kill the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix. Looking at Du Xiaofu's fierce and decisive attack, it was even better than Dongli Qihuang's. At that moment, Chang Xingnan's eyes also trembled. Looking at the thunder-like punch descending, the gaze in the depths of his eyes continued to be complicated and ethereal. Boom! Du Xiaofu's fist landed as fast as lightning. Without any surprise, it violently landed on the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix's head. Frightening purple electric arcs immediately overflowed. At that moment, the entire arena was silent. Countless gazes looked up to watch. However, under everyone's gazes, when Du Xiaofu's punch landed, the scene of brain matter and blood spurting out did not appear as everyone had expected. The Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix's body had already strangely disappeared in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. Du Xiaofu's fist had only landed on the divine thunder platform. As Dongli Qihuang's figure disappeared, Du Xiaofu's eyes did not seem to be surprised. His body leaped up and his feet took a step forward like a ferocious tiger pouncing on its prey. A cold smile appeared on his sharp face. His fist was wrapped in purple-gold lightning and violently punched towards the void in front of him. Boom! The punch blasted open the spatial ripples, and the lightning spread in all directions. Dongli Qihuang's figure strangely appeared in the spatial ripples. He staggered back more than 10 steps and spat out fresh blood once again. At this moment, in the depths of the easternly scarlet phoenix's beautiful eyes, there was a look of complete shock, and her expression was unprecedentedly disheveled, completely different from her previous majestic and extraordinary appearance. "Do you still have the qualifications to keep me here?" Du Xiaofu lifted his eyes and laughed coldly at the easternly Qi Huang. The lightning glow in his eyes rippled with an undisguised murderous intent. A low and deep thunder roar sounded from under his feet. His body once again appeared in front of the easternly Qi Huang in a ghost-like fashion. A hand that was wrapped in a lightning glow once again ruthlessly landed on the easternly Qi Huang's chest. This time, Dongli Qi Huang could not escape. When the lightning palm landed, his body was directly sent flying. Accompanied by a mist of blood from his mouth, his body violently smashed into the edge of the divine lightning stage. At that moment, the entire arena was silent and shocked. Dongli Qi Huang's strength was enough to reach the half-step martial honorable realm. He was comparable to a genuine martial honorable in the outside world. However, he had been defeated by Du Xiaofu. He had been defeated so cleanly. In the divine lightning mountain range, everyone's eyes were trembling with shock. All the experts' faces were filled with astonishment. This was especially true for the experts and elders of the Great Wheel Sect and the Divine Light Court. All of their faces were filled with shock. Originally, they all thought that Du Xiaofu was definitely going to die. There was no way that he could be a match for the saint, Dongli Qi Huang. The experts of the Great Luan Sect had long known that the saint, Dongli Qi Huang's real combat strength was comparable to a venerable. That was why the old Taoist of Changdao dared to make such a bet. Everyone knew that Du Xiaofu was in a situation where he was bound to lose, but he suddenly turned the tables and was even able to make a breakthrough in the battle. Until now, the outcome had been reversed. Du Xiaofu, who was supposed to lose, had now won. Qi. As Dongli Qi Huang landed on the ground, Du Xiaofu's figure swept out again. His eyes were filled with coldness. He had no intention of letting Dongli Qi Huang go. He chased after him again. Dongli Qi Huang's eyes were filled with fear. At this moment, he was like a prodigal dog. Dongli Qi Huang knew that Du Xiaofu would definitely kill him. At this moment, he was severely injured. His physical body was not as terrifying as Du Xiaofu's, so he could no longer fight back. Once he fell into Du Xiaofu's hands, he would definitely die. "Run!" Dongli Qi Huang fled. He used the last of his strength. Under the gaze of hundreds of millions of people, he chose to escape. He fled from the divine lightning platform of the first forging body to the divine lightning platform of the second forging body. The entire divine lightning platform seemed to have fallen silent at this moment. The Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix actually chose to flee in front of all the top talents of the younger generation of the Central Plains. Back then, Du Xiaofu did not manage to escape when he was on the verge of death. In comparison, how big was the gap between them? People can only see the gap in their hearts when they are at the end of their rope. Shui Ruhan muttered in the ancient heavenly sex formation. There was a faint blue ripple in her eyes. Qi. Du Xiaofu continued his pursuit. There was no way he would let this Dongli Qi Huang go. He immediately chased after Du Xiaofu, wanting to chase after the divine lightning platform of the second forging body. However, when Du Xiaofu wanted to chase after Yi Shiwen, he was restrained by an invisible force the moment he left the divine lightning platform of the first forging body. He couldn't descend. Seeing that Du Xiaofu was restrained by the space, Dongli Qi Huang, who landed on the divine lightning platform of the second forging body, let out a sigh of relief. He took out a lot of pellets and stuffed them into his mouth. His face was pale and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He was in a sorry state. Dongli Qi Huang has been defeated. Everyone's eyes trembled. The final result had exceeded the expectations of most people. Dongli Qi Huang's reputation and strength had long resounded in the Central Plains. Even if Ling Jun, Jiang Wolin, and Ming Rongyin were unwilling to accept Dongli Qi Huang, they knew in their hearts that they were inferior to Dongli Qi Huang. But today, the holy son of the Great Luan Sect, Dongli Qi Huang, a rebirth realm expert of the Great Luan Sect, had been defeated by Du Xiaofu. Furthermore, he had been defeated in such a sorry state. The young hall master is mighty. Our 7-star hall is invincible. 1 against 10. The president is valiant. Amidst the silence, the disciples of the Seven-Star Hall, World Society, and ancient heavenly sect burst into cheers. Their blood boiled as they raised their arms and cheered. From now on, the World Society will spread throughout the Central Plains. Yi Piaoling and Qiangu Yu said with ripples in their eyes. The rebuilding of Tianwu Academy is imminent. General Gu Xinyan, Wu Kei, Li Yuxiao, and Ghostchild trembled. At this moment, the purple-gold lightning on Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and the other members of the Du family had already disappeared. However, everyone had made a breakthrough. However, their breakthroughs were far from Du Xiaofu's. Their breakthroughs were drowned out by Du Xiaofu's every move, so it didn't cause too much of a commotion. With third brother, the Du family will definitely rise. Du Yunlong raised his head as his cloud robe fluttered in the wind. His aura had already reached the martial emperor realm. In the ancient heavenly sects lineup, Du Yu and Du Shui's lightning martial vein had also awakened. Their auras had skyrocketed. Their eyes were filled with lightning. The aura of their martial veins was definitely not below that of Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong. The leader of the Sky Prides, a supreme being Sky Pride, Jiu Ling, Wu Ming, Jiang Ruolin, and the other Sky Prides looked at the purple-robed youth with a wry smile. The leader of the Sky Prides, 1 against 10, Martial Uncle Du's bravery has greatly shaken our ancient heavenly sect. In the ancient heavenly sect, in front of the space-time rune array in the Tianwu Square, the disciples of the ancient heavenly sect were so nervous that their palms were bleeding. When they saw the purple-robed youth standing proudly in the void, they cheered endlessly. A supreme being Sky Pride, a supreme Sky Pride. On the mountain peak, Sima Tadixing's glassy eyes shone brightly. There was a smile on his handsome face as he said, Martial Uncle Qingyang's eyes are sharp this time. He has found a good disciple. The Seven-Star Hall is going to prosper. On the 10th peak of the Divine Thunder Mountain Range, Elder Cloud Leopard, Elder Yao Xing, and the others were so excited that they danced with joy. He won. The young master won 1 against 10. Elder Yin Xuanlong was so excited that he directly hugged Elder Yun Ziqin and spun her around twice. Then, he seemed to realize that it was Elder Yun Ziqin he was hugging. He immediately blushed, put Elder Yun Ziqin down, and retreated to the side. At this moment, Elder Yun Ziqin was stunned. When she came back to her senses, her cheeks were already flushed, and she looked like a young girl. Powerful. That Xiaofeng is too powerful. It's not Xiaofeng. It's Du Xiaofu. That guy is Du Xiaofu from the Dark Forest. In the vast crowd in the Divine Thunder Mountain Range, countless people's eyes trembled in shock. There was a lot of discussion, and many people on the third peak looked gloomy at this moment. The Taoist of Changdao, Leizuan, and the others looked as cold as ice. They didn't expect that Dongli Chihuang would be defeated by Du Xiaofu in the end. On each peak, the looks in their eyes were complicated. The strength and fierceness that Du Xiaofu showed made the top experts present have to pay attention to him. 1 against 10. How powerful and terrifying was that? No one had ever done it before. If such a fierce young man was refined by the divine thunder body this time, one could imagine his future. Ha 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 ha, compared to the gloomy faces of Yurun, Leizuan, the Taoist of Changdao, and the others, Elder Gu Qingyang's ruddy face was full of smiles. Then, his loud laughter was like thunder, echoing wantonly in this part of the Divine Thunder Mountain Range. Elder Qingyang, you've earned a lot this time. With such a disciple, you're satisfied with your life. Elder Hu Sankuan, Elder Qian Mingza, and the others looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. While they envied Elder Gu Qingyang, they were also happy for the ancient heaven sect. They all knew very well that no matter whether the young man was a disciple of the Seven-Star Hall or the ancient heaven sect, he was from the ancient heaven sect. One of the masters of the peerless young man was Gu Qingyang of the ancient heaven sect. Gu Qingyang, congratulations. With such a disciple, what more can I ask for? Gu Qingyang, you should be proud now. Some figures landed. On the surrounding peaks, some experts landed on the 6th peak. They were the top experts of other forces. At this time, on the one hand, they were familiar with Gu Qingyang before, and on the other hand, They came to show their goodwill. Chapter 949. Haha, of course, of course. Gu Qingyang's ruddy face beamed with joy. His two front teeth protruded out and his saliva splattered everywhere. He was in a great mood. However, attentive people would be able to tell that on Gu Qingyang's bright, smiling face, there was a bit of hidden moisture in his clear eyes. Those were tears of joy for his disciples' counterattack, and even more so, for his disciples' safety. He really did succeed. Jiangqin's deep, bright eyes gazed at the purple-robed young man in the air. Finally, he revealed a look of shock. On the first divine thunder platform, millions of people watched as Du Xiaofu stood in the air. His purple robes fluttered in the wind as he stood above all the other geniuses. Boom! On the divine thunder platform, the air rippled. As Dongli Qihuang landed on the second divine thunder platform, the surrounding purple lightning rippled and the entire space froze again. Du Xiaofu defeated 10 geniuses by himself and became the leader of the geniuses. Shi Longyang has been knocked off the divine thunder platform. The divine thunder body tempering competition is about to begin. Everyone's eyes trembled. This result made them sigh in amazement. Du Xiaofu's ferociousness and strength had thoroughly shocked his peers in Zhongzhou. It wasn't difficult for them to know that, after this battle, Du Xiaofu's name would spread throughout Zhongzhou. He would truly be the #1 genius of the younger generation. No one could compare to his ferocity. The unluckiest one was Shi Longyang. He had clearly stepped onto the 10th divine thunder platform, but in the end, he was struck down by Du Xiaofu. He fell down from the divine thunder platform and lost a great opportunity. Qi. Just as the purple lightning arc solidified the space below the divine lightning cauldron, little Xingxing, who was on Lin Weiqi's back, raised his head. His pale golden eyes stared intently at the divine lightning cauldron above, after which he seemed to clench his teeth. His small body was like a bolt of lightning as he immediately rushed towards the divine lightning cauldron. Little Xingxing, be careful. Lin Weiqi snapped out of her daze and shouted to stop him, but it was too late. Then, under Lin Weiqi's astonished gaze, she watched as little Xingxing's body shot past the purple lightning that no one dared to touch. None of the sky prides were able to cross the purple lightning arc that froze space. But at this moment, Little Star easily passed by as if it was nothing. These purple electric arcs would not cause any harm to little Xingxing at all. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, wherever little Xingxing's small body passed, the surrounding purple lightning arcs seemed to have intelligence and automatically avoided it. Little Xingxing's body landed grandly on Du Xiaofu's shoulder on the divine lightning platform. He gazed into the depths of the inverted divine lightning cauldron and said, "Father, I feel like there's an opportunity inside. There's a familiar aura." "I feel it too." Du Xiaofu looked up. Since he couldn't kill Dongli Qihuang, he could only give up. If there was another chance, he wouldn't let it go. At this moment, in the depths of the divine thunder cauldron, the essence blood and primordial spirit were connected. Unknowingly, Du Xiaofu also felt that something was calling him, inviting him into the divine thunder cauldron. "Father, let's go in." Little Xingxing asked Du Xiaofu. His golden eyes were filled with anticipation. That familiar aura made little Xingxing feel unusually close, as if they were connected by blood. "Let's go." Du Xiaofu nodded. His figure rose into the air and stepped on the void. Suddenly, step by step, he stepped on the divine thunder cauldron that occupied the firmament. What is Du Xiaofu trying to do? It seems like Dongli Qihuang also wanted to climb into the divine thunder cauldron, but he was defeated in just 3 steps. At this moment, millions of eyes trembled again as they stared at the young man in the purple robe. Inside the divine thunder cauldron, a terrifying purple electric arc descended. The pressure was like a huge boulder that weighed millions of pounds, pressing down on everyone's hearts. That pressure made people's chi freeze, their meridians and souls tremble, and their souls tremble. This kid also knows about that rumor. In the ancient heaven sect, Sima Taxing's glass-like eyes flickered again. He looked at the purple-robed young man in the space-time talisman array, his eyes full of anticipation. On the divine thunder cauldron, on the first forging body, Du Xiaofu was domineeringly climbing up. Step by step, he took 4 steps in a row. Du Xiaofu easily surpassed Dongli Qihuang, causing millions of eyes to tremble in astonishment. That young man in the purple robe was currently stepping into the air with the bearing of a supreme genius. He was incomparably domineering and magnificent. That young man in the purple robe stepped into the divine thunder cauldron step by step amidst the purple-gold electric arcs. He was domineering and extraordinary. How eye-catching. On the divine thunder cauldron, Chang Xingnan looked at the purple-robed figure that had surpassed Dongli Qihuang. Her eyes were filled with ethereal ripples. At this moment, that young man was stepping into the air step by step, as if he was getting further and further away from her. He can actually reach the top. On the divine thunder cauldron, Juling, Wu Ming, Jiang Ruolin, and Ling Jun, and the others all looked up at the purple-robed figure. Their eyes trembled again. Could the rumor be true? Why can he go up? On the divine thunder cauldron, Dongli Qihuang's pale face was filled with resentment as he looked at the domineering young man. 5 steps, 6 steps, 7 steps, 8 steps. Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in purple lightning as he stepped into the terrifying purple-gold electric arcs with his head held high. Purple-gold lightning swept down from the electric arcs. It was domineering and destructive, ancient and boundless. But it couldn't stop Du Xiaofu's domineering steps. Get out of the way. Don't hurt my father. Little Xingxing raised his head and shouted arrogantly. The purple-gold lightning seemed to be intelligent and obedient as it scattered to the sides, afraid of hurting little Xingxing. Boom. When Du Xiaofu's 9th step landed, a large amount of purple-gold lightning swept down from the purple-gold electric arcs above. It was like a purple-gold light pillar passage that enveloped Du Xiaofu and little Xingxing. Then, under countless gazes, the purple-gold lightning, Du Xiaofu, and little Xingxing all disappeared into the inverted divine thunder cauldron. The divine thunder cauldron also disappeared under the divine thunder cauldron. He went in. He really went in. Why is it him and not me? Looking at the disappearing purple-robed figure, Dongli Qihuang's eyes trembled, and his resentment was dense. Dongli Qihuang really couldn't understand why that brat from Little Stone City could do something he couldn't do. It seems that the rumors are true. It's just that Dongli Qihuang isn't qualified, but that brat can. Everything is clear now. 1 against 10, only a supreme genius can get the greatest opportunity. So that's how it is. Our ancient heaven sect finally has a heavenly lord. On the mountain peak outside the ancient heaven sect's Tianwu Square, Sima Taxing's eyes trembled. The rumors of the true great opportunity were true, and it had fallen on that brat. This was definitely a good thing for the entire ancient heaven sect. The rumors are true, and it fell on that brat. Not good. In the Great Wheel sect, in the frozen space of the mountain peak far away from the space-time array, many figures with powerful auras that were strong enough to distort the surrounding space stood. They looked at the purple-robed figure that disappeared into the space-time array with solemn and cold expressions. Investigate. Find out what that brat's background is. On the mountain peak, a rather handsome middle-aged man sneered as a chill shot out from his eyes. Crackle. All the space-time array began to disappear, and everything in the sealed ancient land began to disappear. Those supreme geniuses should have started to refine their bodies with the divine thunder. The sealed ancient land will open in a month, and they will be able to come out then. I reckon that those supreme geniuses will be able to increase their strength by a lot. The most terrifying thing is that their spiritual roots and martial veins will be strengthened. How did Du Xiaofu enter the divine thunder cauldron in the end? Everything is mysterious to begin with. Now that the dust has settled, Du Xiaofu can still step down from the sky and fight Tin alone. He might be able to get even greater benefits after entering the divine thunder cauldron. In the divine thunder mountain range, there was a lot of discussion. As the space-time array disappeared, people began to leave. This grand event in the Central Plains had come to an end. And in this grand event, everyone was excited and pleasantly surprised. Quite a few dark horses surged out. In the end, Du Xiaofu appeared, fighting against Tin alone. This was something that had never been done before and would never be done in the future. In the sealed ancient land, under the divine thunder cauldron, A large amount of purple-gold thunderbolts fell and shrouded the 9 divine thunder cauldrons. Dongli Qihuang, Zhu Chongling, Wu Ming, Cheng Shengnan, Sima Muhan, Du Shaoqing, Zhu Shui, and Ling Jun, and Jiang Ruolin sat cross-legged, forming hand seals and began to absorb the purple-gold thunderbolts into their bodies. Divine thunder body refining. What a great opportunity! Below the thunder cauldron, many people looked envious. Such an opportunity was too rare. After the divine thunder body refining, those supreme geniuses' cultivation and strength were able to widen the gap between them and their peers. 30 years ago, those supreme geniuses who had obtained the divine thunder body refining, such as Sima Tuxing and Dongli Changgu, had already surpassed their peers in terms of cultivation and strength. My martial veins seemed to have improved again. Below the thunder cauldron, Du Yunlong stretched and his joints crackled. He felt indescribably carefree. The purple-gold thunderbolts that he had just absorbed had not only allowed him to step into the martial royal realm, but also strengthened his martial veins. One battle made him famous in the Central Plains. The supreme genius is known throughout the world. Gu Xinyan met him head-on. She raised her beautiful face, her beautiful eyes glowing. Let's wait for a month. Everyone can comprehend the battle just now. It will benefit you a lot. After a month, they will finish the divine thunder body refining, and there will be a space tunnel to seal the exit. Shui Ruhan said to the disciples of the ancient heaven sect behind her. Chapter 950. Inside the mysterious holy thunder cauldron, purplish-gold electric arcs filled the surroundings, exuding a destructive aura. Little Star, be careful, Du Xiaofu reminded Little Star loudly, afraid that something would happen to the ingrate. Rumble. As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, a series of thunderous explosions sounded from the surroundings. Dazzling purple lightning burst out. Bolts of purple-gold lightning that were completely formed from purple lightning struck down with a loud bang, shattering the surrounding space. Du Xiaofu's body trembled. It was as if his body had fallen into a black hole. Then, he appeared in a foreign space. The surrounding space was empty. There were purplish-gold thunderclouds in the sky and Little Star's whereabouts were unknown. Sizzle. Inside the thundercloud, purple-gold thunderbolts almost merged into one, striking down with a series of crackling noises. Wherever the lightning passed, the space would shatter. The lightning was as thick as an arm, and it struck down with a terrifying force. This force was enough to shatter a peak martial royal realm expert into pieces. Before Du Xiaofu could react, the terrifying purplish-gold lightning struck down from the sky. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Oh no! Du Xiaofu was shocked. He activated his thunder martial veins in an attempt to stop the power of the lightning. However, at this moment, the purplish-gold lightning was rolling in the thunder clouds. Streaks of purplish-gold lightning were like purplish-gold pythons. They burst out from the purple thunder clouds and tore the space apart. They struck down fiercely from all directions. In this empty space, Du Xiaofu could not escape at all. Du Xiaofu spat out a mouthful of blood again. The thunder martial veins in his body were shattered. His body was covered in blood, revealing his white bones. If it was an ordinary person who had just become a martial venerable, he would have been killed and turned into ashes. Rumble. After Du Xiaofu spat out a second mouthful of fresh blood, many arm-thick purple-gold thunderbolts were like large purple-gold dragons roaring in the sky. They were accompanied by a resplendent lightning glow as they rushed down from all directions. Du Xiaofu used the wave-like carefree steps, and his figure was as swift as a deity. His eyes were filled with shock as he tried to escape from the attack zone of the purple-gold thunderbolts. However, all of this seemed to be futile. The thunderbolts seemed to have a mind of their own as they bombarded Du Xiaofu's body one after another. Terrifying purple electric arcs overflowed and turned into countless tiny purple electric snakes, which continuously drilled into Du Xiaofu's body. The destructive power caused Du Xiaofu's body to explode piece by piece. As the golden blood splattered, Du Xiaofu began to lose consciousness. Du Xiaofu's final consciousness felt that the terrifying purple-gold thunderbolts were destroying everything in his body. Du Xiaofu's strong body was unable to resist the purple-gold thunderbolts. Even his thunder martial veins could no longer absorb the power of the purple-gold thunderbolts. His bones, muscles, internal organs, blood vessels, and meridians began to be destroyed. Rumble, 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 rumble. The purple-gold thunderbolts and the purple thunderclouds above the empty space gathered into purple-gold thunderbolts, which then struck Du Xiaofu's body. Bang, bang, bang. Du Xiaofu's body was destroyed by the thunderbolts. His internal organs, bones, muscles, meridians, blood vessels, and flesh were all shattered into pieces. Even his Shunkei and Naiwen palace were destroyed by the thunderbolts. Du Xiaofu's square box, Chenkuan bag, Dapeng golden wings, Ba Ying, and other items were scattered to the side. Du Xiaofu's body was destroyed by the purple-gold thunderbolts. Blood rained down, his meridians were broken, his internal organs were ruptured, and his bones were shattered into pieces. Am I really going to die this time? In the last moments of Du Xiaofu's consciousness, he thought of his drunkard father, his mother and sister, Xiao Jing, whom he had never seen before, Xiao Qing, Du Xiaoyao, his first uncle, second uncle, Yilao, the tomboy, Ouyang Shuang, that fairy-like girl, and that clever girl. Those familiar figures appeared in the depths of his consciousness. Then, Du Xiaofu's body was torn into pieces, and he began to lose his consciousness. A thunderbolt struck, and Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit flew out and fell into a coma. Qi. However, in the last moment, the ancient, desolate space in his mud-pill palace erupted with light, automatically enveloping his unconscious primordial spirit, allowing it to remain safe and sound. At this moment, in the same empty space, purple-gold thunderclouds filled the sky, and purple-gold lightning filled the air. Little Xingxing's body appeared in this empty space. His golden eyes swiveled around as he stared fixedly at the ink-black light hovering in this empty space. The ink-black light also gave off an ancient aura that made one's heart palpitate in the space filled with purple-gold lightning. It was like a peerless beast that was in a deep slumber. Whoosh! Suddenly, the ink-black light began to flow. Light poured into the empty space, as if a peerless beast had awakened. Suddenly, little Xingxing seemed to be attracted by something, and his golden eyes turned ink-black. Roar! Little Xingxing opened his mouth and roared. Then, he turned into his colossal body that was dozens of feet long. Starlight flowed, and there was the aura of the golden-winged roc. His wings, which were hundreds of feet long, were no longer as thin as a cicada's wings. Instead, they were like the feathers of a phoenix, and blazing red-purple flames spread. A terrifying, strange, and complicated pressure spread from little Xingxing's body into the empty space. That was the aura of a demonic beast sovereign. Whoosh! The ink-black light fluctuated, and then turned into dazzling spots of light that covered little Xingxing's back. It wrapped him tightly, as if he was a part of nature. Qi, an illusory figure, then walked out from the ink-black light. It was an extremely young yellow-robed man who was not even 30 years old. He stepped into the empty space, and his figure was peerless. It was the descent of a true sovereign. The space around the yellow-robed man was distorted. Under the golden curly hair on his forehead, there was a vast aura in his deep, black eyes. There was a demonic mark between his eyebrows. Child, your father, mother, and uncle are all busy, so we had no choice but to leave you in this world. When you come here, I'm afraid this world will be in turmoil again. Leave behind the black tortoise divine shell for self-protection. It can also help the person who has the purple lightning profound cauldron to guard this world. Take care of your home. Your mother and I will definitely come to bring you home. As the man's voice fell, there was a smile in his eyes. Then, the illusory figure of a sovereign slowly disappeared in the empty space. Time passed slowly. The 9 geniuses on the Divine Thunder platform were being refined by the Divine Thunder. Their auras, spiritual roots, and martial veins continued to strengthen, which attracted countless envious gazes. Below the lightning platform, the Du family and the world society no longer dared to underestimate them. Back then, there were less than 70 geniuses on the lightning platform. Only a dozen geniuses from the Du family and the world society were able to step on it. This was enough to make people not dare to underestimate them. Looking at the 9 great forces, none of them could have so many geniuses. In addition, this time, Du Xiaofu had defeated 10 geniuses by himself. The news that he was the World Society's president and the third son of the Du family had quietly spread. No one dared to underestimate the Du family and the World Society. Some people even speculated that the Du family and the World Society were big secluded forces. Otherwise, why would they throw out so many geniuses? There were also people who secretly guessed that Du Xiaofu, who had entered the divine Thunder Cauldron's cave, would obtain a great opportunity. In short, this Sky Pride competition was completely different from the previous ones. In the outside world, the entire Zhongzhou was shaken. Du Xiaofu's name resounded throughout the entire Zhongzhou. While everyone was dumbfounded, the World Society and the Du family's reputation also quietly spread. Du Xiaofu had fought against 10 alone and stood above all the other heaven's prides. Once the news of Du Xiaofu's tyrannical deeds spread, it was as if a peerless, vicious beast had descended to the mortal world or a god had descended to the mortal world. At dusk, under the setting sun, the stone city was covered in golden light. The sea of clouds shone with golden light, looking extremely spectacular. The Du family's main hall was also shrouded in a sunset glow. At the entrance of the treasure ground, the glow soared into the sky. The heavens have blessed our Du family. Immediately spread the news throughout the barren country that the Du family's third young master is still alive and has suppressed the leader of all the geniuses. The Du family's disciples are famous in the sealed ancient lands. If our Du family does not fall, we will prosper. In the main hall, Du Zhenwu's body trembled. Tears of joy welled up in his eyes. Spread the news to the barren country's front line. The founding rock emperor has not fallen. He will return from the sealed ancient lands in a few days. Medicine King Yi Wuming said. His gray robe fluttered and his eyes trembled. The third young master is not dead. He really is not dead. The mysterious Dragon King, Absolute Sword King, Stone Turtle King, and the others were all excited. The heavens have blessed the barren country. The barren country will be blessed by the heavens. The stone city is blessed by the heavens. The heavens have eyes. At dusk, the entire stone city was in an uproar. Everyone walked to the streets, decorated with lanterns and banners, and beat gongs and drums to celebrate. Someone will take revenge for the stone city. Wait for the rock emperor to return and take revenge. In the crowd, there were old people who were moved to tears. There were women and children who were looking forward to it. The stone city's blood feud would wait for the supreme being to return and take revenge. He's not dead. He's not dead yet. The supreme genius, Dongli Chihuang, has been defeated. Chapter 951. He's not dead. He's not dead yet. Even Dongli Chihuang has been defeated. In the Golden Dragon Palace of the Stone Dragon Empire's Imperial Palace, Emperor Cheng's body couldn't help but tremble as he held the jade slip in his hand. Thud thud. The message seemed to have drained all of Emperor Cheng's energy. He staggered backward and slumped into the dragon throne behind him. His eyes were empty. We can only look for the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court now. Emperor Cheng Fanshi's eyes trembled and his old face darkened. He's the junior brother of Sima Taxing, the leader of the ancient Heaven sect. He's also the disciple of the Seven Star Hall's revered artifact. He seems to have a good relationship with the Profound Talisman sect. His backing is even stronger than the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court. Sima Taxing Xing's voice trembled slightly, his eyes desolate. He knew very well that Du Xiaofu was backed by the ancient Heaven sect, the Seven Stars Hall, and possibly even the Profound Charm sect. Their relationship was more stable than the Great Wheel sect and the Divine Light Court, which the Stone Dragon Empire currently relied on. More importantly, once he came out of the sealed ancient land, he could rely on the strength of the World Association and the Du family to sweep the entire Stone Dragon Empire. Among the 70 or so Sky Prides, almost 20 of them were closely related to him. We have no choice but to rely on the Great Luan sect and the Divine Light Court. We'll see what they plan to do, Emperor Cheng Fanshi said in a deep voice. His old face was cold. Emperor Cheng looked at Emperor Cheng Fanshi. After a while, He sighed and said, "Father, you shouldn't have gone to Stone City. Otherwise, things wouldn't have come to this. There's no point in thinking about it. We can't use him, so we can only get rid of him. The Great Luin sect and the Divine Light Court are still here. I'm afraid they want to get rid of Du Xiaofu more than we do. We haven't lost yet. We still have a chance," Emperor Cheng Fanshi said in a deep voice. As the Emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, he had protected the Stone Dragon Empire for many years not only because of his strength. Sigh. Emperor Cheng sighed softly, unable to refute old Emperor Cheng Fanshi's words. His gaze trembled slightly as he muttered to himself, "I hope there is still a chance. I hope Shangnan can bring about a turn for the better." Within the Stone Dragon Empire, the news that the Courage God King, Du Xiaofu, and the Daping Emperor, the founder of the Desolate Empire, were still alive had spread. When the Stone Dragon Empire and the Huang country went to war, the Huang country's army didn't attack the ordinary citizens. Everywhere they went, the cities were left untouched. They didn't even take a needle or thread. They had already gained the support of many. On the other hand, some of the Stone Dragon Empire's direct descendants were defeated in a panic. Everywhere they went, they were heavily taxed and robbed of cultivation resources. This made the people hate them, but they didn't dare to say anything. As the news that the brave Divine King was still alive in the sealed ancient land and had defeated the 9 forces to become a supreme sky pride spread, many people were shaken. Most of the people in the Stone Dragon Empire's army had witnessed the brave Divine King leading the many experts to kill the enemy in Enlightenment City. Putting aside the fact that the brave Divine King had defeated Lu Kuan of the Sky Snake sect and established the Stone Dragon Empire's reputation. In the end, the brave Divine King wasn't included in the celebration. Neither was the Heavenly Beast Hall and the World Assembly mentioned. Some of the soldiers were already unhappy. They only discussed in secret and didn't dare to say it out loud. Later on, the brave Divine King was severely injured and needed the Imperial Palace's dragon chi to prolong his life. However, the Stone Dragon Empire refused. In the end, the news of the brave Divine King's death and the Stone City and Dark Forest forming a country had spread throughout the army. Some of the soldiers were already unhappy with the Stone Dragon Empire, but they couldn't do anything about it. Later on, because the Huang country wanted to seek justice in the Stone Dragon Empire's Imperial Palace, the old Emperor Cheng Fanshi and the experts of the Great Luin sect started a massacre in the Stone City. Blood flowed like a river, causing the Stone Dragon Empire and the Huang country to go to war. This made many soldiers of the Stone Dragon Empire even more unhappy. However, they had no choice since they were their own masters. At this moment, the brave Divine King was still alive. Many of the soldiers in the army saw how arrogant the Cheng family's soldiers were and wanted to retreat. Some of them secretly wanted to change sides. A huge storm was brewing. "Alive! My grandson is still alive." In the bamboo forest, the North Vanquishing Monarch's eyes trembled with excitement. The North Vanquishing Monarch's body was getting stronger and stronger. However, he had become much weaker in the past few years. He looked old. "North Vanquishing Monarch, we can't take it anymore." Many of the generals and marquises were dissatisfied and were secretly executed. "The Cheng family is immoral and doesn't deserve our lives. Old Wang, please lead us." In the bamboo forest, a general in armor knelt down and begged for his orders. "Old Wang, please lead us." All the generals knelt down and begged in unison. "I've already removed my armor and returned to my farm. I've abstained from worldly affairs and received the mercy of the heavens. My grandson is still alive. That's enough." The North Vanquishing Monarch waved his hand. He had already removed his armor and returned to his farm. He didn't want to interfere with worldly affairs anymore. The generals had no choice but to leave reluctantly. They knew they couldn't persuade this stubborn old Wang. "Grandpa," Xie Fei opened her mouth. Her bright eyes moved and she looked charming. It seemed she wanted to say something. "Feier, do you think my grandson still needs my help?" The North Vanquishing Monarch interrupted Xie Fei's words. Xie Fei looked at the North Vanquishing Monarch. After a while, she said softly, "Grandpa, do you really want to see people suffer? With that guy's character, once he comes out and learns about the changes in Stone City, he won't let it go. What I'm most afraid of is people suffering. That's why I removed my armor and return to my farm. What comforts me is that the desolate country is supported everywhere it goes. I didn't misjudge him. It seems like the Stone Dragon Empire's luck has run out. The North vanquishing monarch sighed. After a while, he said softly, but with my cheap grandson's character, he won't let the Chung family go. In the end, the Chung family won't come to us and beg us to retire. Then I'll risk my life to beg that kid to save the Chung family's bloodline. Why is that? CFA was puzzled and asked the North vanquishing monarch. If the Chung family doesn't come to us in the end, it means they still deserve to keep the bloodline. The North vanquishing monarch looked into the depths of the bamboo forest. His eyes flickered as he said, if the Chung family still sends people here in the end, it means the Chung family wants us to suppress my grandson. Then it means the Chung family isn't worth us anymore. CFA didn't say anything. She seemed to have understood something. Thunder rumbled in the void. Bolts of purple gold lightning struck Du Xiaofu's sleeping soul. However, they were blocked by the light of the space lock. Flesh and blood were flying everywhere. At this moment, apart from Du Xiaofu's sleeping soul, there was also the Qinkuan bag, the tyrant's shadow, and the golden rock wings. The square box containing the heavenly palace of purple gold had long been destroyed, revealing the complete heavenly palace of purple gold. No matter how hard the lightning struck, it couldn't destroy the heavenly palace of purple gold. In the void, a huge piece of flesh was completely torn apart. However, there seemed to be some connection between the pieces. Among the flesh, blood, meridians, and broken bones, there was a light net that released mysterious runes and spread pressure. It was Du Xiaofu's original thunder martial vein. Boom! The incessant purple-gold thunderbolts directly bombarded the broken flesh. The monstrous thunderbolts lacked a kind of destructive aura at this moment. As they bombarded the broken flesh, purple-gold lightning lingered, seemingly strengthening the flesh. The bolts of lightning struck in an orderly manner. There seemed to be some kind of pattern. Every time a bolt of lightning struck, the shattered pieces of flesh would quietly undergo some changes. They were slowly being refined and becoming stronger. This kind of tempering was undoubtedly much more abnormal than Du Xiaofu's absorption of the blood essence of demonic beasts and the energy of spiritual herbs. This kind of tempering completely shattered the body and started from every cell. The power of the purple lightning was enough to destroy any physical body. However, when it landed on Du Xiaofu's shattered body, it strangely allowed it to survive. Du Xiaofu's broken body, every piece of broken flesh, every tiny cell, was automatically absorbing the power of the purple thunder. At this moment, if the previous owner of the Divine Lightning Cauldron, that the people of the central continent called the Divine Lightning Cauldron, saw the speed at which Du Xiaofu's shattered flesh was absorbing the purple gold lightning energy, he would definitely curse in his heart. This speed was many times faster than his original speed. Of course, the previous owner of the Godly Thunder Cauldron did not have the Thunderbolt Martial Vein. However, Du Xiaofu had the Thunderbolt Martial Vein, and his body could absorb the power of the lightning. At this moment, his speed was naturally much faster. In the shattered body, there was a tyrannical fluctuation of golden talisman engravings that released an overbearing aura. That was the half of the golden-winged rock bone in Du Xiaofu's chest. At this moment, it was constantly being destroyed by the terrifying purple-gold lightning. In the end, it completely merged with the flesh and blood. Rumble. The lightning continued to strike. Du Xiaofu's body was filled with multicolored light and fluctuations of ultimacy. A powerful heart was beating like a drum, shaking people's souls. This was Du Xiaofu's new heart. It was formed from the grass of immortality, dark seeker grass, star energy, and the ultimacy of the purple flame demonic phoenix. This new heart was reborn from the destruction of the lightning. At this moment, it was unharmed in the lightning. It could even connect with the lightning and release a surging and indestructible vitality. Chapter 952. Bolts of purple gold lightning struck Du Xiaofu's shattered physical body. Under the boundless life force released by the new heart, the shattered physical body became much more active. Chi. There was only silence in this empty space. It was a silence that had lost all traces of time. Of course, amidst this silence, bolts of purple-gold lightning continued to strike. These bolts of purple-gold lightning followed a fixed pattern. As they struck Du Xiaofu's shattered physical body, they also struck Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. Although Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit was protected by the boundless energy released by the ancient barren space, there were still bolts of purple-gold lightning that penetrated the boundless energy and entered his primordial spirit. Finally, they merged with his primordial spirit. If anyone could see this scene now, they would definitely be able to sense that Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit had an additional purple-gold color as it absorbed the power of the purple-gold lightning. It was becoming more and more solid and powerful. Time passed. In this empty space, the purple-gold lightning seemed to have no intelligence, but it also seemed to have a sliver of intelligence. It struck out bolts of lightning according to a fixed pattern and speed. In the entire space, only the sound of thunder resounded. As for Du Xiaofu's shattered physical body, it became stronger and stronger after being tempered by the lightning. Finally, under the boundless life force released by the new heart, Du Xiaofu's shattered physical body began to reform once again. His tendons, muscles, limbs, meridians, and blood vessels were regenerated and regenerated. Only when even his primordial spirit was covered did the ancient barren space retreat to the side and fall silent. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was like a butterfly that had broken through its cocoon and was reborn. However, Du Xiaofu himself was completely unaware of all this. He had no idea how great the benefits he had received were. The night sky was filled with stars. The mountain peaks were connected, and the aura was ancient and boundless. On the mountain peak, under the cover of the moonlight, a young girl around the age of 19 or 20 stood quietly. The young girl's 2 strands of black hair gently brushed against her face. Wrapped in a light green dress, her small waist outlined a graceful arc. She was an extremely beautiful young lady. This kind of beauty was not only in terms of appearance, but also in her temperament and bloodline. At this moment, if there were any other peerless beauties standing in front of him, they would immediately pale in comparison. The girl stood on the mountain peak. Even though she was standing there quietly, she looked like a real immortal that had descended to the mortal world. She was untainted by the mortal world. Her delicate red lips parted slightly as she murmured, 1 against 10. You're really impressive. However, I'm afraid that clan will find out about this. Who knows, it might bring about a lot of trouble. Chi Yeshi's eyebrows curved as she looked at the starry sky. Spiritual light swirled in her eyes. There was a hint of worry in her bright eyes. Elder Kong, help me pay attention to that clan. Suddenly, Chi Yeshi turned around and looked at the night sky behind her. Her bright eyes began to change color, revealing a kind of majesty. Young lady, we can't interfere with the matters of the outside world. Otherwise, the clan leader and elders will scold you again. An elder's voice sounded in the night sky behind her. Their clan can't interfere with the matters of the outside world either. Chi Yeshi's beautiful face darkened and became more and more majestic. Her eyes shone like the stars in the night sky. She said, however, I'm the one who saved that guy. If anyone dares to touch him, I won't agree. Deep in the night sky, after a moment of silence, the elder's voice sounded again. Young lady, don't tell me you've fallen for that guy. Elder Kong, what are you talking about? Chi Yeshi's eyes widened, and she stomped her feet. Under the moonlight, the crimson color of her cheeks was faintly discernible. Young lady, I'm just reminding you out of kindness. That guy is quite capable, but there's a world of difference between him and you, the elder continued. Elder Kong, do you think he's not talented enough? Chi Yeshi frowned. Young lady, I just think it will harm him. The clan won't agree. The elder sighed softly. Then he said softly, I think he's not bad. Even among his peers in the clan, he should be able to enter the top 80, maybe even the top 60. Elder Kong, you're thinking too much. I won't fall for that guy. Under the night sky, the night wind blew. Chi Yeshi's long dress fluttered slightly. She stood under the moonlight like a fairy. Then she bit the corner of her lips, and a strange look appeared in her bright eyes. She murmured softly, if I really like someone, no one can stop me, not even those old men. The continuous mountain range was lush and green. The night sky was enveloped by a bright moon. At the peak of the mountain, the atmosphere was ancient and boundless. A towering ancient tree covered the night sky like a giant umbrella. A woman in her 20s, dressed in a tight-fitting green outfit, stood under the tree and looked up at the starry sky. The woman's delicate face was like that of a fairy. Her eyebrows were like emerald feathers, and her skin was as white as snow. Her hair was tied into a simple bun behind her head. "Are you okay?" the fairy woman murmured softly. Her tall and graceful figure leaned against the tree, outlining her graceful curves. If Du Xiaofu was here at this moment, he would definitely recognize that this was Dongli Qingqing, who often appeared in his mind. It was just that her figure had become more graceful over the years. Qi. The space fluctuated, and an old woman in her 50s appeared behind Dongli Qingqing. The old woman's back was slightly hunched. Her long hair was tied up in a high bun with some white mottled hair. Her face looked a little old. "Master." Dongli Qingqing turned around. Her whole body emitted a faint spiritual energy. "Little girl, why are you in a daze? There's not much time left. You have to break through that level as soon as possible." The old woman looked at Dongli Qingqing and straightened her slightly hunched body. Suddenly, her eyes were stunned and revealed some joy. She said in surprise, "Little girl, you've broken through?" "Yes, I've broken through that level." Dongli Qingqing nodded. A slight smile appeared on her exquisite, fairy-like face. "Although you've broken through that level, it's still not enough. Many people in those clans have already broken through that level." The old woman looked at the night sky with clear eyes. Then, she looked at Dongli Qingqing and said softly, "Your talent is not below those of the top generation in those clans. It's just that your cultivation resources are not as good as theirs. I let you train in the outside world so that you can be stronger than them in terms of state of mind and will to make up for the difference in cultivation resources." "Thank you, Master, for your good intentions." Dongli Qingqing bowed. She knew that although her master was strict, she had always been considerate to her. She was the person who treated her the best in the world. She was even willing to give up her life for her. And that guy was also willing to give up his life for her. "It's about time. You've already broken through that level. It's time for you to get what your clan left for you," the old woman said softly. There was a slight fluctuation in her seemingly strict eyes. How could she not feel pained in her heart? The blood feud of the clan fell on this slender body. All these years, she had been training non-stop and bearing this heavy burden. As her master, she felt pain in her heart when she saw this. In the eerily silent space, the purple gold lightning continued to fall according to a mysterious pattern. "I can't die. No one can let me die." When Du Xiaofu regained consciousness, he shouted loudly in the depths of his primordial spirit. Then, he woke up with a start. "Am I dead, or am I fine?" When he woke up, Du Xiaofu recalled his last memory. In the end, he was struck by the purple gold lightning. His body was torn apart, and blood rained down. Releasing his primordial spirit, Du Xiaofu looked around. After a while, Du Xiaofu was completely shocked from the depths of his primordial spirit. He was not dead yet. His body had recovered completely. The purple gold heavenly palace, the cosmos bag, the great Pong golden wings, and the ancient desolate space were scattered to the side. And his body, which should have been broken, seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. Even the thunder martial vein in his body was getting stronger and stronger. Du Xiaofu stood up and allowed the lightning to strike him. Sensing everything in this space, he muttered to himself, "Could it be that this is also a great opportunity? This is the true divine thunder body tempering. Opportunity, this is a great opportunity." Du Xiaofu murmured softly. Wasn't this the great fortuitous encounter that he had been searching for? Under the purplish gold lightning, his physical body was growing stronger and stronger. Even his soul was becoming more and more solid and powerful. "Expert, I want to become an expert." In the depths of his heart, Du Xiaofu was filled with determination and determination. This wasn't a crisis, but a great opportunity. Perhaps it was because he challenged the sovereign mode that he was able to obtain the great opportunity in the divine thunder cauldron. At this moment, he had to grab hold of this great opportunity and increase his strength. This was the path he had always been on. He still had to meet his mother and find his younger sister, Xiaojing. His alcoholic father's whereabouts were unknown, and Tianwu Academy had yet to be rebuilt. Only by becoming a true expert would he be able to complete all of this. I must become an expert, Du Xiaofu muttered to himself stubbornly. Even though he didn't know when the lightning would stop, he seemed to be able to absorb the lightning to become stronger. His bones, heart, blood vessels, tendons, muscles, and skin were all strengthened from the inside out. These changes were all due to the purple gold lightning. Absorb the divine thunder and continue to strengthen. Du Xiaofu sat down cross-legged and started to absorb the purple gold lightning to temper himself. At this moment, if the previous owner of the divine thunder cauldron was here, he would definitely go crazy. Back then, he had broken through the purple gold lightning and established the indestructible Xian body. It took him a total of 2 years. But now, Du Xiaofu had already broken through and established the indestructible Xian body in just a month.